right, everybody, welcome to the All Out 2021 review show. I'm here with Ashley Mann. Ashley, how are you doing? What a show. Was this the greatest AEW pay-per-view of all time?
Oh, it has to be. If not, I need a reminder on what was, because I don't know if it's just like recency bias or what. We're just still going from last night, but if not, then I'd love to go back and watch what was better than that, because I don't remember.
The only other argument I've heard is Revolution, and I don't even know if I was actually watching AEW at the time, so I can't. This is the greatest AEW pay-per-view that I've seen. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. According to us, it's the greatest.
I mean, so much to talk about, and we'll get into all of it. And I figure, as always, we'll just go down the match card, and a lot to talk about at the end, though. But you'll just have to stick around until we get to that, because the buy-in, we had what I thought was a fun 10-man tag team match. So I'll throw it over to you first. What did you think of all this?
Yeah, so to be honest, I didn't catch all of it because my feed was cutting out. I had to switch over to my PlayStation, so I missed like the first half of it. But the last part that I saw was really good, and it's just so cool. Like, I mean, of course, I would have loved to, and I'm sure you also would have loved to have seen Andrade and Pac, but we'll be getting that this week coming up. But it's just so cool the way they were able to get, that amount of guys onto the card, and it didn't feel forced. Like, it still was continuing a feud. So I just love what they did there, and that, they all ended up getting their shot. And Orange Cassidy, man, it's just amazing, just the reaction that he gets still.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about him later. Actually, one of my favorite spots of the entire pay-per-view. But I have to disagree with you. I thought this, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the match. It's an exciting AEW 10-man tag team match, right? There's not much to explain or to complain about that. Private Party, I think, gets better every single match they're in. I just think they're so talented. I'm so sick of this Hardy Family Office crap. I think even on the buy-in, Matt Hardy just gets way too much Dynamite time and pay-per-view time for me. With all the other people they have on that roster, I don't know. And so the beatdown at the end of it or whatever, it just feels redundant. And again, this wasn't much. It was a buy-in, so I'm sure we were not. But I bet you on Dynamite we have another Orange Cassidy versus someone of the HFO once again. Maybe the Butcher, because the Butcher is back. Let's talk about that, right? All these people talking about all these big debuts, returns, and everybody's leaving out the Butcher.
I know. He should be right up there with everyone else. Like, the disrespect. Like, it's just
Punk,
uncalled for.
Butcher, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole.
It just
absolutely
flows. It flows.
You look great, though. So, yeah, I'm sure we're going to get that on Dynamite, and I will probably complain about it next week. So, tune in for that. But like I said, we got a whole bunch to talk about. So let's get into the actual pay-per-view itself. I had a feeling they might kick it off with this match, and I didn't know if it was going to be a great idea, but I think it actually worked out really well because, man, do the fans love Eddie Kingston. So we had the TNT Championship match, Eddie Kingston versus Miro. Story of this match, basically just Eddie was going, like he said, for the head and the neck. And Miro, and they realistically, they just beat the crap out of each other. I mean, Miro's chest looked ridiculous. It was
black and blue.
And it looked like blood. It looked like, how all your blood vessels burst like that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Because sometimes I feel like a lot of those chops, maybe they don't sound as good, or the ones when he does the machine gun chops or whatever, but when you see the result there, oh my God. I thought overall this was a great match. The finish obviously being a little bit futzy with Eddie Kingston getting the DDT, but then the referee being distracted by the turnbuckle. And then towards the end, Miro hitting a low blow, what is it called? The mule kick or something like that. And then getting the Machka kick. And you know what? I thought he got the 1, 2, 3, obviously. I thought they were going to have it as so. He put him in the submission and Eddie Kingston just passed out. I actually think I might have preferred that to this, but I don't mind a pinfall victory with all the shenanigans. I think AEW doesn't do, at least for the most part, doesn't do a lot of shenanigans. So, outside of the elite. So I was okay with this, and I think that word protected and shenanigans and all that stuff were so WWE eyes that, like, it automatically seems wrong or bad. But, like, how many matches does Darby Allin win by a roll-up? It's just, as long as it's not super overused, it's not bad at all. So I thought this was a creative way to end the match. What did you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think with Eddie Kingston, he's one of those guys that you kind of need a finish like that, because if you look at his track run in big matches, he always ends up on the losing side, or the majority of the time he's losing. And he's one of those guys where it doesn't necessarily affect him, but you can't just continue to beat him without protecting him at the same time, if that makes any type of sense. Like he's one of those guys that can like fortunately talk his way into and out of anything. So it kind of just becomes second nature, the match itself. But I think again, like you want to keep that aura that Eddie Kingston brings, that tough, what kind of guy. So I like what they do with him, and I agree with you. I was kind of expecting him to pass out because wasn't that the finish for his match with Mox when he had his title shot? I think for the heavyweight championship, and I believe it's like him against Moxley. That was how they ended that match. But yeah, I expected that as well. But I'm happy with how they ended it to begin with. So.
Oh yeah. I was thinking you were talking about Miro and Moxley. I was like, oh wait, no, but yes, that with the bulldog choke. Yeah,
No,
no,
with Kingston and yeah.
I agree with you. I think Eddie Kingston, I'd like to see him more on Dynamite, and we talk about this all the time, but the downside of the ranking system, and also a plus side, is that, depending on how you look at it, is we don't get to see a lot of these guys wrestle a lot of matches all the time, especially on Dynamite. But I'd like to see, just put Eddie Kingston versus someone in a match and just let us see him get a victory so we can be reminded of all that. But no, I thought this was, I think he lost more than he did in that tag team match when Moxley took the pinfall back at a Double or Nothing. I think Eddie Kingston came out of that even stronger. I wouldn't say he came out of this stronger, but like I said, I definitely don't look at Eddie Kingston as any less of a badass. However, yeah, I'd like to see him get some wins on Dynamite on TV, not Dark or Dark Elevation, but on
Right.
Dynamite. Just so we can be reminded why we love Eddie Kingston so much. So maybe they run this back, though. I've heard people talking about how they might run this back at that special show in New York, Grand Slam. I'd
Oh
love
yeah,
that.
one.
Hometown hero, Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, and I guess we'll get into it deeper when we get into the tag matches, but they have to have a big moment for New York. So I mean, what bigger moment would be Eddie going over? Even if he were to just win the title then at that night and then maybe lose it, like a week or two later if you don't want him to have it long term. But man, what a moment that would be for him.
Yeah, I hope you're not going to say what I think you're going to say about the tag team match, but we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So speaking of John Moxley, actually next was John Moxley versus Satoshi Kojima, and all I'll say is I didn't know a lot about Kojima going into this match, very, very little, but I am a fan coming out of this match, so I'll throw this one over to you first.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I honestly need to get better versed with the Japanese side of the wrestling world.
Yeah.
I kind of want to take that like as a homework assignment. I actually bought a few DVDs a few months ago, but I need to go back and finish watching. But from New Japan, but yeah, I'm kind of like you. Like I don't want to say impressed by him because that sounds like belittling almost for someone of his stature. Because I did do some research on him, and he's obviously been around for quite some time. But man, like I was just taken aback, and it kind of just goes to show you, like man, like there is literally like sometimes, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, like I was just so engulfed in like the United States bubble and like specifically obviously WWE like for the longest time that you almost kind of forget and don't pay attention to other companies out there. So this was just one of those matches, and then of course what happened right thereafter. That just kind of makes you appreciative too for AEW also with that whole Forbidden Door thing. Even though I'm kind of overhearing the whole
I
term
was just going to
Forbidden
say
Door.
they are driving that home,
Gosh,
man.
yeah, like it was okay, but it's just like I'm so over everyone saying it. We get it, but yeah, I'm happy the way this played out. And at first, I was kind of wondering if Mox was going more of a heel route because he swiped his hand away instead of giving him the respect at the beginning, but he ended up bowing at the end, so I guess it all worked out.
Yeah, I think that played into the story he was talking about before, how, when they step in the
Yeah.
ring, he doesn't respect anybody, but then afterwards, he did the same thing with, the name is passing me, maybe you can remember it, when he had the match on Dynamite. I love that match, too, and I can't think of the guy's name. Another older guy from
Oh.
Japanese wrestling. I don't know why. It's going to come to me while we're talking about, like, the championship match, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, though, like you said, they again, just like Eddie Kingston and Miro, back to back, these guys just beat the crap out of each other, and it was great to watch. And Kojima looks great. We were saying like for a 50-year-old man, he looks incredible, and not even just for a 50-year-old man, just in general, he looked awesome.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff they pulled off. I thought the only thing I'll say, and this is so minor, but they said, delivered consecutive paradigm shifts to get a pinfall. I thought the first one was like the Dirty Deeds. And I know they look very similar, the move obviously that Dean Ambrose had, but it looked like the first one wasn't much of a paradigm shift. Then the second one, when he hit it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that guy's out for good. And when Moxley really hits that I love that finisher, you know,
Yeah.
and I like that it's
Because it's
protected.
yeah, and not to cut you off there, but it's kind of like it's easy to kind of relate to in a weird way because it makes sense, right? Like it's obviously like it's one of the things where you can believe like, oh yeah, if someone legit put you in that and drove you down, like it would hurt, and he can hit it on virtually anyone. So it's just
Exactly.
one of those moves where it's just a win-win.
Yeah. So this was great. Obviously, Moxley going over, beating Kojima, and then, like you alluded to beforehand, Minoru Suzuki comes face to face with Moxley. Moxley's face is being memed all over the internet, and they just punched each other back and forth like it was just the two couldn't have been having more fun. Just, I mean,
Yeah.
those, like, don't get me wrong, right? Like, they're hitting each other, you know, in the neck. They're not forearming each other in the face, but they were hitting each other, period, you know, and really throwing back and forth. And obviously, Moxley going for a clothesline and just Suzuki no-selling it and then hitting him with the Gotch pile driver. Standing to close things out and leading us into next week's Dynamite, obviously, Cincinnati, Ohio, John Moxley's hometown. And we're getting Suzuki versus Moxley in Cincinnati. Yeah, Forbidden Door, man.
Yeah. And what better place to have that too in Mox's hometown? Like that's got obviously got to be the main event, unless they do anything with CM Punk or Daniel Bryan or have like anything else like that, or Bryan Danielson. But yeah, like I'm so excited, and kudos to AEW. They just the way they set things up the week in advance, even on a pay-per-view. Like we already have a lineup for this Dynamite and from a pay-per-view. We don't have to go to Twitter. We don't have to look anywhere else. Like we already had a general idea before leaving the show, so it just makes you that much more excited. And that reaction that he's going to get in Cincinnati is going to be insane.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure. I could see them opening too. You know, that opening
Yeah,
slot.
true.
I was really
He seems
hoping
to
they
get
were going to
that.
give it to the women on All Out, but that opening slot of Dynamite specifically, obviously, because they're allowed to do a certain amount of time ad-free, is I think kind of where it started from, but it's really gained a lot of prestige, and I think a lot of that goes towards Hangman Page, obviously, and those amazing openers that he had. We took that for granted, obviously, with now that
Yeah.
he's gone with his wife. I miss him. But yeah, they those openers and that opening slot has really gained a lot of prestige, almost if not sometimes I feel like more than the main event. So I could see them definitely opening the show. I think
True.
I'll see if I can get your Dynamite predictions. Obviously, they already have the match card up before we go off the air, so I won't ask you who you think's going to go over on Wednesday, but at least yet. And speaking though of the women, AEW Women's Championship match: Chris Statlander versus Dr. Britt Baker. I thought these two women really. I thought this was probably Britt Baker's best match as a champion. Let me put it that way. And I thought it was a little clunky in the beginning, but when they got towards the end of the match, they really pulled it together. And obviously, that Panama Sunrise, or what's being referred to as the Pittsburgh Sunrise, foreshadowing what was to come.
Mm-hmm.
That
Oh, that
I
was
stood up
amazing.
out of my chair. I was so
Yes.
excited about that. So Britt Baker obviously defeating Chris Statlander. Let me throw it over to you again.
Yeah, no, and I think what it's called now the Pittsburgh Sunrise,
Yeah,
according
that's
to
what they
Britt.
said.
Yeah. It's just it's so well done. Like I loved. Obviously, we had talked about before the little mentions that she had, made about Adam Cole and just everything like that. And I just think it's just so well done. Like just the little teases that she had been doing on her side. But of course, the match itself, I agree with you. I think this was such a well done match. And of course, like you said, there were like a few spots, but as a whole, and I think Chris Statlander again, like this was another, I don't want to say a breakthrough moment for her, but just another like a good showing for her and something that she maybe needed in a way just to kind of solidify herself with like the wide stream audience because of course this past year she had been undefeated. I think she was 17-0 going into the match last night since she had returned from her injury, but this I think was her best match in AEW period, at least that I can remember. So and it's just night and day between this match and her match with Nyla Rose. So it's just amazing, and I kind of wish that they could kind of continue this. I'm sure they're going to go a different route based on what happened later on in the night, but I wouldn't even mind seeing a repeat of this, like maybe like a Dynamite before you advance to anything else. I just think Chris just really proved herself here in a way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like it's a super easy story to, and I say easy, but to run back of, oh, lost to the champion at this point in my career, 2 years down the line, back up against the same champion if that's possible, obviously, and beating them at that time, basically going back, watching the match, learning, getting better, and then going and being able to win the second time around. And I'd love to see that. And then through that, you get a third match just because you're at 1-1. It's just like super simple
Right.
storytelling, obviously very long term. But yeah, I think Chris Statlander, if she doesn't get to hold the women's championship at some point in her career here, I think that's a huge miss. She came back from
Definitely.
that injury. At least I would say in ring better than Britt Baker did when she came back for her injury, better than anyone I've seen. Just like I take her seriously and way more seriously. And literally, it sounds so funny. Since she popped out of that crane game machine in the Arcade Anarchy match,
Yeah.
I was like, all
How
right,
crazy.
she's a badass. Like, you know what I mean? And she really, she's deceptively strong. Obviously, she's a bigger woman, just a muscle wise or whatever. But she doesn't look nearly as strong as she seems. Like she deadlifted Britt Baker at that one point in that suplex spot that scared me
Hmm.
for a hot minute. But
Yeah.
and yeah, and just another mention of that Panama Sunrise. I don't think I can get myself to call it the Pittsburgh Sunrise, maybe. But I thought I was like worried again. That's a hard move to execute for both women, and she like it couldn't have looked more perfect. I thought
No, again, the second I saw her drop
getting up
from,
right to the second rope.
yes, I was like, no, she's not. And it was just, and what made it better was the fans, right? Because they obviously knew what was happening as it was happening. So it just made it even that much more magical, if nothing else. It was
Yeah,
just so well done.
the hands up in the air. Yeah, because I
Oh,
was like, Britt Baker
yes,
doesn't usually go to the top rope. Like, what's going on
exactly.
here? Up. So overall, I thought this hit 100%. I thought, this was, for me, I was more invested in this match than the other two, which is weird because they didn't give me a lot of reason to. But, yeah, hopefully they can build a couple more stories now coming into this women's division and coming out of the Casino Battle Royale, which I'm sure we will talk about as we get to it. But we could spend an entire podcast on this because this, to me, was the greatest tag team match of the last decade. To me, was I had me what's it called? I'm stuttering just even talking about it. Had me like feeling every emotion possible that you can elicit in a wrestling match, and it was a steel cage match for the AEW Tag Team Championships, the Lucha Bros versus the Young Bucks. I mean, the spots in this match, the Canadian Destroyer off the top rope looked brutal. I think it was to Nick Jackson who took that one. Matt Jackson with the I was annoyed at first with the shoe with the thumbtacks and Brandon
Yeah.
Brandon Cutler
Brandon
coming in,
Cutler.
but I was like I'm like this, I'm supposed to be annoyed. I'm supposed to be mad. This is a good thing. It's not like they're doing something wrong. This is a good feeling that they're eliciting. And I mean, with the mask being ripped open, Penta's eye bleeding and his entire
Oh,
face bleeding,
brutal.
the crossbody off the top, that spot where they're all standing, four and they're stereo, like they're all chops and then super kicks, and then they all get back up
Oh,
and do it
yeah.
again. Oh my god. I mean, and the near falls, Ashley, the near falls. I sat up from like 2 minutes into this match on, and some of the stuff Ray Phoenix did, he was like fucking wall running off the steel cage. It was unbelievable. So, like, best match of the night for me, without a doubt. And the result had me flying high for the rest of the night. I said, I tweeted, I think I said, the rest of the pay per view could have been awful, and I would have been happy just for this match alone.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. It's Ray Phoenix. I mean, all four
Is
guys.
not
Like,
human.
no, but Ray Phoenix is just like literally not human. It's just, and I feel like we always say this, and I don't. People are probably tired of hearing it by now, but he's just remarkable. Like he's all those words put together and then some. Like when he ran off of the side of the cage and just continued, it was just like just an. I don't want to say simple things because God forbid, like it's completely not simple, but it's just like he does things where you're like, oh yeah, and what I love about him is everything that he does makes sense. The way he puts it together is just so beautifully done because you would imagine, right, if you were able to, and someone was throwing you towards a cage or something like that, and you were trying to avoid actually getting thrown into it, you would try to brace yourself off of it, and he just so happens to be able to run off the cage, off the side. It's just, unbelievable. And the fact that, and it's crazy that I don't think a lot of people are really like referencing it as much, but the fact that he was on top of the cage and like didn't run, but walked very quickly from want to say like maybe halfway through it to the side was just again like I think it's kind of like it doesn't really seem like a big deal, but he could have tripped like it. He
Hmm.
had no brace. There was it's just him up there and his balance, and that just speaks. I mean, of course, wonders to him, and it's just Ray Phoenix, man, Ray Phoenix. And I'll admit I didn't think that they were going to pull it off here. I thought the Young Bucks were going to retain. And not to give too much away, but I kind of thought that it was going to be Young Bucks and Pride and Powerful at your show, the Grand Slam in New
Hmm.
York. So I'm still kind of torn about that, and I guess we'll see how all that plays out. But I'm super happy for the Lucha Bros, and like you've said before, I think the Lucha Bros should have been tag team champions long ago. But yeah, I'm just so thrilled with the match, and like you said, I agree with you as well with the shoe, because I just thought that there was just because you do all this right to make the match quote unquote fair by having a steel cage to have it right down the middle. And then if they were going to win the match because of something like that, it's just like really. But it was just so well done.
Yeah, no, they really played with us. Two more spots I want to mention before I forget too. One of them was the spot where Matt Jackson had the shoe on, the tax shoe, well, just the Nike tax shoe. Just talk about how ridiculous that is.
Right.
And he was going to super kick Ray Phoenix, and Penta comes and takes the kick for his brother. Oh, my heart
Oh
ached. It was
yes.
such a good moment. And another one, the Canadian Destroyers on the apron, right? That was both older brothers doing it to the younger brothers. And
Mhm.
what was the last one I wanted to? Oh, you mentioned Ray Phoenix, right? Just talking about how remarkable he is. Ray Phoenix is like a spot fest, but in the best way possible. Because, like you said, he makes everything look so natural. And there's, like, you'd think, okay, you're a professional wrestler, the spot fest thing is easy, right? You can just do a bunch of spots, and that's fine, and the crowd pops, and you live for the pop. But like Ray Phoenix and Penta has as well, and the Young Bucks as well too. But I think Ray Phoenix better than all four of them, right? Or the best of all four of them, makes it look like you said, just like it's a part of what he has to do in order to win. I can't explain it. It's so organic. He makes it so it doesn't feel like he's just doing a spot to do a spot. He's doing a spot because it's his way of winning the match. Like it doesn't feel inexplicable, if that makes any sense. And he did that spot. Both Nick Jackson was on one rope and he was on the other, and he did this great little moment. I don't know if you caught it, but he was up there and he looks at Nick Jackson like, "Oh, you're here too," and then did the Hurricanrana off the top rope, like from one
Mhm.
top rope to the other top rope. I was like, "You're a magician, man. You just some of the stuff you can pull off is unbelievable." And I also want to mention too, Nick Jackson looked like an idiot with the bleached beard and his hair slowly
Oh
going more and more blonde. And
yes.
uh,
Oh, it just gets worse and worse.
and Ray Phoenix and Penta's entrance was electric. And then throughout the entire match, the crowd, I've never seen such a 100 to 0%. Like, there wasn't Lucha Bros, Young Bucks chants. It was all Lucha Bros chants the entire time. The crowd made that match 10 times better than it already was, and it already was a classic, an instant classic. So, the Young Bucks, too. I feel like we're not giving them enough credit on here, but the Young Bucks are always the Young Bucks. They're just incredible. And these guys, this is their ninth match together. The Lucha Bros winning 5 and the Young Bucks winning 3. They could fight every week on Dynamite, and I don't know how sick I'd get of it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I could watch them every week also. But really quick before we move on, I wanted to mention one other spot, well, two more other things really quick. But the crossbody from the top, when he did it, the first thing that I thought of, and I think it's just because Ray Phoenix himself just reminds me so much of Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
It's just I just always like just picture Rey Mysterio, but the fact that Phoenix did a crossbody off the top, that was, I think, either the first or the second night Rey Mysterio had made his debut on SmackDown, like ever, back in, I think it was 2002. He climbed to the top of the cage and did a crossbody off the top onto, I forget, I meant to look it up, but I forget who was all in the ring, but that's the first thing I thought of. I was like, man, I don't know if he did that on purpose, because I, not for nothing, was scared what these guys were going to try to do because they're crazy, especially Phoenix. So the fact that they did a crossbody, part of me wonders if there's any kind of tie in there, or if it was just, I don't want to say the easiest thing, but just the safest way to, knock everyone out besides doing like a flip or anything like that. But that, and then just the touch with having Penta's family there and his girls and everything like that. I just thought that was a really cool moment, and just another reason why it makes you so happy for them.
No, absolutely. I thought it was the crossbody was a great choice because everybody was kind of expecting somebody to jump off the top of the cage, right? And everybody was
Hmm.
expecting Phoenix to jump off the top of the cage. I thought it would have been funny if they swerved us and had Penta jump off the top of the cage, but yeah, it was like, okay, we got the spot. We got it pretty organically nonetheless, but we got the spot and it wasn't. I mean, they had three guys catching him, right? So it was about as safe as it could be. The only thing I'll say about that is yes, Penta got hit with the thing too and then just got right back up. It was a little bit funny.
Yeah.
However, you
And he was in the
saw.
center. He took the brunt of it for real, if you think about it.
Yeah, but you saw Ray Phoenix go, and I forget who got pinned. One of the young bucks was getting pinned, and Ray Phoenix went and grabbed the other one. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I can get behind that then. After they hit their finishing maneuver, obviously, which the name is escaping me, but like you said too, the family, the girls. The only thing I was thinking, I was like, that's your daughter, and your blood just got all over her face.
Yeah.
But
All over in her shirt, like poor thing.
But
But
yeah,
yeah.
no, I almost got emotional with that too. I was just like, again, these guys are some of the most. They are, if not one of the like top three, top five tag teams in the world, right now at least. And I mean, both of these teams are in that top five category for sure. I would say top three category. I would.
Oh
They
yeah.
probably trade back and forth one and two for me, honestly. Young Bucks just such a good performance, overall. They're so good at what they do. I'm curious to see, what's next for them. Obviously, with Adam Cole being there, I'm sure we're gonna get maybe we get some kind of blood and guts thing. I don't know. We'll get into all of that obviously later on in the show, but. When you said the New York show, I thought Proud and Powerful was going to face the Young Bucks in New York as well and take the titles off them. If they
Hmm.
don't face the Lucha Bros for the titles, I'd like to see maybe they run back the FTR match. They
Yeah.
each got one victory. Maybe they have the third blow off there. I really think the first one wasn't great. The second one was a good to great match, but I really think those four guys have something better in them, and I almost feel like they're saving something better. So maybe that's the plan. I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like you have to, if it's not, them versus FTR, then it has to be the Bucks. But you have to have them in a high profile tag match for that show. Like, it would just be injustice if you don't.
Yeah, absolutely, hometown, and those guys are obviously proud New Yorkers. So
Yeah.
no, I mean, I don't think I'd like to see him in a title match, especially if the Lucha Bros are going to have the titles at that point. I'm sure they would put on a
Right.
great match, but I want to be able to root for Proud and Powerful in New York, and I know who I'd be rooting for if it was that match. But I'm excited to see who's next for the Lucha Bros too. Do you have any? I can look up the rankings now, obviously as we're talking, but do you have any dream matches that you'd want to see the Lucha, or not necessarily dream matches, but just who you would like to see the Lucha Bros face next for the titles?
Yeah, I don't. It's tough. I think the first match that they're gonna run back is probably them and Jurassic Express. I just for
Hmm.
some reason just feel that match since they of course just beat them to get to this point. I just feel like, especially them being baby faces, I think that would be just like a good gesture for them, and it's a high profile match, and it's just an easy, even though it is baby face. I just think it's something easy to go to. So yeah, I think honestly, I think that'll be their first like actual match. But storyline wise, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that one. I don't know because I think the Young Bucks are obviously gonna be busy with other things going forward. So I don't see a rematch there anytime soon. But I honestly don't really know where they go. What about you?
I'm looking at the rankings now, and you're right. Besides the Young Bucks, obviously, who would be number two ranked there, the Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus will be ranked number. They'll be ranked number two actually, and the Young Bucks will be number one. I think again, I'm doing this math because this is obviously not updated for All Out. But number three on this list was Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz. So maybe we do get
Yeah.
that in New York. I really hope that's not what they do, but I trust them. And then they have the Varsity Blondes, who, to me, oh, there's my dog. To me, who are still a little bit too green to have a match of that caliber on that stage. But I'd watch that match on a Dynamite for sure. FTR is the group I really want to see them face next.
Yeah.
However, with that being said, I think FTR should be the team that takes the titles off of them. So if they're going to do that, I hope that's where they go. And I don't ever want to book that, obviously, because I don't ever want the Lucha Bros to lose the titles. But yeah, I don't know. Proud and powerful FTR in New York, I do, and then later down the line, I'd have FTR take the titles off the Lucha Bros. But we'll see. I mean, I'd like to see more from Private Party on Dynamite, and I don't know when we're going to see the Acclaimed back, obviously, with Max Caster, but I'm hoping. I'm just the Butcher and the Blade now back together, obviously. Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky are doing that weird stuff that I don't want to talk about. So we'll see. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of the Gun Club apparently turned on Big Show, so they're a big deal now. So I don't know. There's a lot of exciting matchups. I just hope this title change makes for a more prominent role for the tag team division on Dynamite. Like, I want to see just a regular tag team match, you know, no Kenny Omega involved with Michael Nakazawa or whatever. Just give me like the Butcher and the Blade versus, I don't know, Best Friends on Dynamite, or versus I don't know, yeah, Private Party or something. Again, that makes no sense because they're both in HFO, but I'm reading the list here now too, and this list is out of date, absolutely, because I've got some of these names on there, but nonetheless, yeah, I just think I'd like to see the tag team division get a little bit more of a spotlight, because I feel like the Young Bucks being involved with the Elite has actually almost hurt the division, you know, because we haven't seen a lot of these tag teams kind of get I mean, obviously with the tournament aside, but get a lot of shots, you know. When's the last time we heard Santana and Ortiz talk about the title?
Yeah, and with AEW, of course, like with the Young Bucks being EVPs, you know, or co-EEPs, or however that works out, like, you would think that it would be maybe spotlighted a little bit more, and of course, it's light years above WWE, and it is probably the best tag division in any company right now, but it just could be a little bit more, you know, just like the fire is just like into full focus, isn't there? And I think you're right. I think with the Young Bucks being champs for however long it's been now, that's most likely why, and I think it was good, and it shows, you know, a good mental, you know, wherewithal, if nothing else, that they realize that now is the time, especially, of course, with everything going on that we're going to get into, that they don't need to be champions right now. And, you know, that they very well could have retained the titles. And like I said, I thought that they were going to, and the fact that they didn't, and they're going to be moving on to other things without hogging the titles as well. And it does show how deep their roster is. So it's just, I hope that now that the focus is on a different team and actually like a solid tag team going forward with a separate storyline than that's involved with the heavyweight title, I think it'd be good to just get that focus on it. And it'll be fun to see where it goes from here. And I mean, it's the Lucha Bros, so any match would be good. It's going to be great.
I was just going to say, they could have a match against Broomstick and Mop, or Moppy,
yeah.
You know.
Moppy,
it would be an incredible match. So,
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. I hate to say it like that, but I'm ready for the Elite to lose the titles, you know. I feel like they've kind of been holding them hostage, and I don't mean hostage in a bad way, which is weird to say, but just within all these storylines, and Kenny Omega thinks in such a spider web kind of way with all this stuff going on that sometimes the titles almost feel like they get lost in the shuffle, and if they don't, then the division is going to, and that's what it's felt like for the tag team division for me lately. So, you know, eventually for me, by towards the end of 2021, I want to see all the titles in the Pinnacle, and I want to see the Pinnacle as a group again. I want MJF as champion, maybe by 2022, FTR with the tag team titles, maybe they have trios titles coming possibly soon. I want to see gold around the Pinnacle for sure. Maybe they even give Shawn Spears the TNT title. That would be something.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, no match was going to follow that up, and I think they did a good job of where they placed this with next the Casino Battle Royale for the women. This was a bad match. At least in my opinion, for most of it. The only really talking point, it was good to see Hikaru Shida back. I heard people talking about she must have peed someone off in the back, and I'm like, I don't think AEW works that way. But it was good to see Riho. It was good to see Emi Sakura. It was good to see, like I said, Shida and Sky Blue. Obviously, a big Chicago hometown pop for her. That was nice. I wish she stayed in the match a little bit longer. But Jade Cargill with that military press of I forget who it was. It wasn't Red Velvet. It was Layla Hirsch. She took out some of those referees. That was funny. But yes, the real story of this entire match, which again was probably perfectly placed because we weren't expecting much out of this, was the debut of Ruby Soho. They had Ruby Soho chants before the Joker hit, and then when she came out, I got chills. I'm getting chills again just talking about it. I felt so happy for her. I just in my head, I was just like, welcome to a place where your talent, the way that you look, it's different. All of that stuff is going to be appreciated. And even the last moments with Nyla Rose, Thunder Rosa, and Ruby Soho, obviously, I thought they were clunky. I didn't think they were good. I thought the elimination of Nyla Rose didn't look good. I thought that spot with Thunder Rosa and Ruby Soho on the apron was a little, again, just I think the best word I can use is clunky. But at the end of the day, the big story of this is your new number one contender and is now officially all elite, Ruby Soho.
Yeah, so a few things with the whole match itself. The first thing that's always, I guess, I'm gonna use this moment to kind of get this off my chest, but the whole concept of them coming out in groups just really bothers me to no end. Like, so I like the idea of it, right? But first of all, half the time when the groups are coming out, like I didn't know who was coming out until they were in the ring because they weren't showing you who was coming out. Like you could barely hear the like the music itself, and it was kind of odd to me. Like the music would play, you can kind of hear who it was unless they have like a really distinct and noticeable like theme song. But they didn't, like, it would be like, or at the very last second they would cut to like the ramp or something like that. But it just kind of struck me as odd that like you wouldn't even show them making the way out of the ramp or out of the tunnel itself until they got into the actual ring. So that, I just feel like that's the time to spotlight them. And if they're going to be coming out in like groups, then that's fine, but you still have them separated. So I don't really like that layout. I just think that they could kind of tweak it a little bit. That's just me personally. But yeah, and I think with the whole, the build up to the Joker itself, that was kind of cool. But the whole time I was sitting there concerned, like, oh man, are we going to miss her entrance because of the camera cuts that they have been doing? But again, like you said, with her coming out and just, again, the look on her face, it was kind of similar to CM Punk's in a way, just the emotion. It's just, like, she just
It was her
looked like she just
hometown
felt
too,
at
right?
home.
Sorry to cut you off. They said she was from Chicago, right? From what I
don't
remember. Now
know.
I'm going to look it up. Keep going. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Maybe. No, you're good. I don't know, honestly, but if she is, then even better. But yeah, I don't, of course, I'm big Ruby Soho fan, and I'm stoked that she's here. And I think that this division really needs that. I mean, not saying that she's the best wrestler out there, but she's solid, and she was a staple for the WWE's women's division. Like, if you remember when, like, a Ronda Rousey came back, she was going up against Ruby Riott for a lot of those like live shows and a couple, like, I know she had like I think it was a pay-per-view match.
Yeah, those were no, it wasn't Evolution. It was like a Royal Rumble or something. But those were sleeper matches.
Yeah, and it was solid matches. Like, so, you know, a lot of people would say like, oh, she's just kind of overhyped or whatever, but no, she's not. Like, and I think AEW just kind of proved that too. So I'm just excited for her, and I was kind of bummed that. Side note that the new shirts that they were debuting, because I don't know if you knew that they were having like a sale for Labor Day.
Oh,
but
I heard
was
about it.
trying to.
Yeah, I heard
the
20% sale that happened the day after we ordered our shirts. Yeah, I heard about that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Anyway, so I was trying to order some of the shirts, right, from that sale. And of course they were like restricting from like dropping the new shirts until after the sale ended. So it's a bummer because I wanted to get Ruby's new shirt, but yeah.
Well, you'll just have to pay full price, like someone I might know. Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, I completely forgot. Yeah.
Anyways, though, no, I agree with you, and I think honestly this is a whole nother podcast. Maybe we do this one time and sit down. But I think the Casino Battle Royale is one of Tony Khan's most stubborn points, because I get it. It's a rip off the Royal Rumble. Let's call it what it is, right? Good, rip off the Royal Rumble, right? Like, you know, It was a great idea. I like the casino aspect of it. I heard this idea fluttering around too before, and so this is not my original thought, but like do a roulette wheel and everybody's got a number, you know, and so it lands on one of those things, and it doesn't have to be a real roulette wheel. It could be one of those virtual ones. So when somebody's, you know, number gets called, you like black out that side. So then I don't know, something along those lines, and maybe you have the green 0 or the green double. Maybe you have two. You have the green 0 and the green double 0. I don't know how familiar you are with roulette, but yeah, you do that. Or just like have an own adjusted roulette wheel or something like that. Just they got to do something where maybe every 1 minute someone debut or comes out because yeah, like you said that the like it's like oh the clubs are starting. Okay, no pop because none of us know who any of the clubs are, and then
Right.
we can't even watch them enter. You know, it's just the production of it's not great because the actual setup of it is just it's a bad match. It's a bad idea of a match. It's just I understand the concept. I like the concept. It doesn't work, and they've done it enough times to see by now that it doesn't work. When have you ever heard of a casino battle royale and you've been like, "Oh, that was amazing"? Meanwhile, I can talk about this year's women's Royal Rumble, and it was probably one of the greatest Royal Rumbles of all time, if not the greatest women's Royal Rumble of all time.
Yeah, and I think not to keep bashing on this in and of itself, but I just think it was like one of those things that was like a great idea, but it was just halfway thought through. It's like you started thinking about everything and you just stopped and you didn't really think about like, oh, well, this doesn't really make sense. But now we're just kind of at the point where it's like we just need like we've seen like you said we've seen enough of them where we kind of just have to like just mesh some things out and it's nothing major. I mean, it's nothing like detrimental to anything, but it's just like it would make the match that much better. You know what I mean? And more enjoyable.
Yeah, I wish they would just listen because we are not the only people who have had these thoughts. I think a lot of people think about it this way. So there's a lot to be fixed in this, and maybe they scratch the idea altogether and come up with something new. But yeah, rip off the Royal Rumble. Like just if
Go
you're gonna
for
do
it,
it, just
yeah.
do it. The only thing I'll say last thing is shout out to Abaddon, by the way, who of course was only in the match for a couple minutes, but we were talking about it. We were like, yeah, if I saw that person in a ring, in public, anywhere, I'd probably scream and run the other way too. I thought it would have
Oh
been a
my
funny
gosh.
spot to just have her scream at, like, I don't know, not Penelope Ford, put some respect on Penelope Ford's name, but somebody and just have them bolt over the rope to be out of the match. Because she
Like the
looked
bunny or something.
like Rebel. That would have been great. Rebel
Oh
would have been
yeah,
perfect for that
yeah,
because we all didn't care if
yeah.
Rebel or Jamie Hayter was going to
Yeah.
win. They weren't going to do anything with it. But
Britt knew she wasn't gonna win.
yeah, exactly. Though Jamie, that was so funny. But Jamie Hayter too. As I'll say one more time, every time I see her, I'm more and more impressed, and I cannot wait for her eventual turn, or maybe Britt Baker turns on her, or whatever they end up doing, because she looks like a star.
Oh yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And she had mentioned, I don't know if you follow her on Twitter, but really quick, someone had mentioned something about like how long until you turn on Brit or Brit turns on you or something to that effect. And she was like, never, that's never going to happen. And just like, she was just so like for certain about it that it's like, okay, so it's definitely going to happen. And it's one of those things where you like, there's not even been any seeds, but like you said, like there's just something about her that just kind of has that star factor. And when you look at her, it's just like, oh man, like she's gonna be a big deal one day. And it's just for whatever reason, I can kind of see like maybe 6, 8 months from now, just like a big time match between like her and like a Jade Cargill, just like two heavy hitters just going at it. When
Yeah,
they get
no.
like maybe a little bit more experience, just yeah, something like that.
You just reminded me of a
Besides
point
Britt.
I wanted to make too was like the reason they have these matches or a great reason to have these matches is to build feuds outside of them, right? And so
Hmm.
I don't remember who it was, but there were two ladies who were kind of brawling on the outside. I'm gonna forget the name. Maybe I'll look it up as I see now. Um, was it? I wasn't
During
Diamante,
the
was it?
match.
Am I pronouncing that wrong?
Uh,
Diamante?
Diamante. No, that's
Yes. Was it or
right.
her and I forget who. Two ladies though. Again, this is how like how distracting this entire match was. But there were two ladies who were kind of brawling a little bit on the outside. Good. Put them on Dynamite. Make a little feud out of it. I want to see Nyla Rose versus Jade Cargill. Have Jade Cargill kind of play maybe a temporary baby face there. I don't know about you. I'd be rooting for Jade Cargill versus Nyla Rose.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
kind of the newer thing is the fresher thing there, and have them like that's a Rampage main event. You know, without
Yeah.
a doubt. So you can build feuds out of this little match, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of that. So hopefully they follow up with something here, because Anna Jade and Ty Conti versus the Bunny and Penelope Ford is a match that they could build out of this, and then you can get Anna Jade versus both of those two ladies. It's so easy from here. If I can think of it, it's got to be easy.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I'm just willing into existence an
Yes.
AEW women's division. So, all right, the final fight, supposedly. Chris Jericho versus MJF. This was divisive for sure. But this was this to me was their favorite match yet. Just for me, I love this spot. The Kevin Owens. I don't think it was to that, but the homage to Kevin Owens with the power bomb on the apron. looked brutal, and MJF just selling the back for the rest of the match. But obviously, MJF hits the I forget what move it. What was the move called again? It's not the Heat Seeker, is it? No, he hit the Judas Effect. I don't know why I'm thinking. Yeah, he hit the Judas Effect, and MJF goes for the pin. Chris Jericho's foot's on the rope. Aubrey Edwards does not see it. A bad night for the referees this night, man. But does not see it, and then supposedly Chris Jericho loses. His career is over. We're all in tears. No, the referees are out there because Wardlow came out there and Jake Hager came out of, wherever the hell he's been. And, the referee, they restart the match for some reason, and eventually Chris Jericho gets MJF to tap out after putting him into the Walls of Jericho. I don't know what they call it again. It's not the Walls of Jericho in AEW. Do you remember what do they call it?
Is it? Oh, I didn't even realize that they had changed the name for
Maybe it is. I don't know. But we all know what we're talking about when we say the Walls of Jericho. And the last thing I'll mention, too, before I throw it over to you, is obviously MJF makes the entrance with the Y2J thing and then a countdown to Chris Jericho's last match. I got so excited, and I was like, oh, that prick. And then Chris Jericho making the entrance with the guitar solo and the crowd singing Judas. So let me throw it over to you before I give any thoughts on this whole thing.
Yeah, so starting with the entrances, just like you, he got me. The second I saw the countdown, I was like, oh, this is going to be dope. Because I thought, to kind of play on the fact that this could be his last match, I thought they were going to kind of go through as best as they could. Kind of go through, like, the variations of Jericho, right? At least, like, entrance-wise. So I was kind of looking forward to that. Because Jericho's really creative. And, I don't know, so I just kind of expected, like, a cool little package there. And it was MJF. So very, very well done there by him. But not for nothing, the robe that he was wearing, he looked like a star. Like he looked like a big deal, and just like a big time player. So say what you want about him, but within the next even 2 to 3 years, like he's just gonna be like, it's just gonna be so fun to watch and see where he goes. As much as a despicable human being as he is, it's gonna be like entertaining to see kind of what I can imagine being like the next Chris Jericho type, like a next star that will evolve over time and just be like huge for the industry itself. So yeah, but of course he is what he is. And I don't know if you follow him on Twitter either, but some of the stuff he says on there and responds, it's just, I don't know how he gets away with it. My jaw drops and I'm just like, I would never even think some of these things about people, let alone like just say it. It's just kudos to him. But yeah, the match itself, I think it was really well done. And again, not to be all over MJF, but he does so well at selling too. Like there were points in the match where I thought his back was really injured, that he was legit in crippling pain. Just the way he was like, in my eyes, it looked like he was almost in tears. Like at one point, I think it was, I forget what move was, if it was just like a suplex off the top rope or something like that, but there was a point where
he reversed a Hurricanrana into like a power bomb off the top rope, and supposedly I guess landed on his tailbone and was selling the lower back. That's the part I was talking about too.
Wait, yes, that part, yeah. Seeing his face the second he like bounced off the mat, it made me cringe. Like I kind of felt for him in that moment. I was like, God, this poor guy. But yeah, and the ending itself, I don't really know how to feel about it. It's fine, and I think it of course kind of like protects MJF in a way, which is I guess what you want to do also. But I don't know. Like I of course expected Jericho to win here because with everything going, like Jericho's not going to want to miss some of these big time matches that he can be involved in, amongst other things. But and rightfully so, like he should be involved. But I don't know. Like the way that they kind of did it, like, since when does a referee hang around ringside,
only when it's convenient.
Right, and so first of all, I will say that I appreciate the explanation that he gave. He was like, I was out here because of, for Wardlow and
and commentary too. I don't know if you heard that too. Like, they said something about how JR is like something, you should have referees on the outside as well. Like, they had, what's the word I'm looking for? They had basically thought it was a good idea to have more referees on the outside, and that's why this was a good thing that happened, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and since Wardlow and Hager had come out, like, I guess it makes sense. But like normally when they come out to get whoever's out back to the back, like they go to the back with them. So that was just like, and just I don't know, like if you break it down, like it kind of doesn't make sense. But again, that's kind of maybe nitpicking because of the match itself was great, and the crowd itself just really ate everything up. But yeah, like I kind of enjoyed the match. I don't know. I don't really know what I expected, but I don't want to say I was let down by the ending because of course I saw Jericho winning, but I don't know. I hope this is the final fight for sure for them, but I don't know. I'll be interested to see where Jericho and MJF for that matter goes after this, if this truly is the end.
Yeah, I'll bury AEW if they do the John Cena The Rock thing once in a lifetime, and then next year we have the same exact match. No, I 100%. I hope this is the final fight too. I think the idea of it, and I could be reading too much into it, is multiple times now Wardlow and MJF have had little issues of interference where one tries to interfere and it actually ends up hurting the other. Obviously, the match between Chris Jericho and Wardlow, MJF screwed up, and then the match between MJF and Moxley, right? I think Wardlow screwed up, if I'm correct. Just like it's been a theme with them of Wardlow or MJF just patronizing Wardlow, and then Wardlow coming out to try to help, and then him being the reason why those referees are out there. They might be going somewhere with that. Who knows? Again, I could see Wardlow breaking free of the Pinnacle, but I don't know where he'd go next. I'm afraid he would end up in a Brian Cage situation. So I kind of don't want to see that. I want to see MJF just take I'm trying to think of a way to say this without cursing. You know what? I'm just going to curse because I don't know another way to say it. Just like take the piss out of him for a long enough time where the fans are just like behind him, waiting for him to turn on. Similar to what we talked about possible for Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker, or like I mentioned the Batista and Triple H thing from Evolution from long ago, obviously. Something like that, because I don't want Wardlow to end up in a Brian Cage situation because that's just been no bueno lately. But yeah, no, I mean, and the other thing is MJF claims to be undefeated in singles competition because Moxley cheated using the paradigm shift. Now he can continue to claim to be undefeated in singles competition, I think is probably what they were going for.
Yeah, no, I it totally makes sense. For me, just the first thing, it just, certain things like that just really stuck out. But like I said, like
There's a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah. So it is what it is. But I enjoyed the match overall. You pretty much enjoyed it as well, right?
My favorite match. Yeah. My favorite match that they've had. I thought this was better than all the others.
Yeah. Sure.
I enjoyed Blood and Guts more, but I was gonna say it's like they can't AEW with all these things. It's either like, okay, this little futzy finish, which is nowhere on the same wavelength at all. But the thing at Blood and Guts, obviously with the bad production, the lack of explosion, the exploding barbed wire death match, it's just kind of like. I don't know, I depend on AEW for, like, these definitive, no pun intended, like, explosive endings, period, Yeah. And we did get that at the end of the show, and with everything that happened, again, we're nitpicking it now because we're looking at it more in hindsight, but in the moment, I was like, what? And then I was like, all right, whatever, fine, I don't care, But I honestly was kind of really hoping Jericho was going to be done, and this isn't because I don't love Jericho and appreciate everything he's done, obviously, not just for AEW, but for professional wrestling in general. Though, like, with CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and Adam Cole, and, like, they've got a lot of people on that card now who are over the age of 40-something, which is fine, obviously, but just, I don't want to say veterans, but I guess that's the best word I can use, veterans of the game. It's great, Christian Cage, but you only need so many veterans at this point. So I hope he kind of wrestles in a more limited capacity. I don't know where he goes next. I know he's going on tour. He's got his cruise coming up. He's obviously commentary on Rampage. Hopefully he goes away from that when he's doing his cruise and tour and all that stuff, because that booth is just getting too much for me. But I want to see MJF revert to the title picture or revert to CM Punk. I don't know about you. Where would you book these next two guys?
MJF is hard. MJF is harder than Jericho. I'd still have Jericho go away for a while because, like you were just saying, it's kind of crowded right now for big stars. So I think even though
Talk
Jericho
about a good problem, by the way.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. This isn't like a negative thing at all. It's just kind of it is what it is. Like Jericho, and not for nothing, Jericho deserves a break, right? Like Jericho was there since literally day one, since the press conference. So he deserves time away. And I mean, I enjoy Jericho. I enjoy him in this role that he's in now. And if he were to stay around, I definitely wouldn't want him with MJF. And that's the thing. Like, I don't really know where he would go because it depends on if the whole inner circle is still a thing and what they do with that and just what direction they're gonna go.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I was thinking, I'd like to see him come out as not like a valet or a manager kind of vibe to a Sammy Guevara, and we just get Sammy Guevara in the spotlight for a little while. That's probably where I'd like to see his role go next.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, I could see him and Sammy Guevara, like, not necessarily teaming up, but yeah, like you said, like, kind of have him as like maybe like a mentor type role, or just
like a Sting. What Sting's doing?
Yeah,
right
and
now.
like in Arn Anderson, like a coach with Cody, you know, type thing, but not necessarily directly
really
like quote unquote a coach. Yeah, but just obviously like the history's there, and you know, no one would really question it. And then you still get Jericho on TV. You could play a song, you know, for the crowd, you know, whatever. But yeah, no, Jericho is kind of an easier one, but MJF, man, I really don't know because I don't see MJF and don't get me wrong, like if they start MJF and Punk Wednesday,
I was gonna say, who wins that now? You think about it, yeah,
and like, and I'd be here for it because the promos alone, like, just take my money, like, you know, like I'm sold. But for me, like, it's still so fresh with Punk, and I think with an MJF type feud, Punk needs to be vicious, and right now Punk is still just happy to be here, which is cool. But man, to go after MJF, like, I feel like we need like straight edge society Punk, or
I was gonna say, it's too soon.
Yeah, or I mean, you know, as cliche it is, like the Punk right after the pipe bomb, like right around that time frame leading into that next year, like we need that vicious Punk, you know what I mean? And he just has to have like that. I mean, I hate to that, you know what, in vinegar, you know, he just needs that little extra something there. So. And I kind of have like a timeline, which I'm gonna hold off for later when I would see like MJF and Punk. So yeah, me personally, like if they started that on Wednesday, take my money now. But if in a perfect world for me, like, I'd hold off on that for a little bit. But then that's what I'm saying. Like, MJF is hard because you don't have him going after Kenny because he, you know, the heavyweight champion. Kenny's involved in like 5 different other things, and then Miro's the TNT champion. So I mean, those two, like. You could do a heel versus heel, but they're polar opposites, and there's just really no, unless you wanting to turn Miro babyface, then that could probably be the start of that. But I don't know. It's hard. What do you think?
I pulled up the men's roster now because I thought, oh, so cute. Mr. Brody Lee Jr. is on the roster. I love that on the roster page.
-1.
I love that, man. And Brody Lee is still on the roster page as well.
And they just released an action figure for him, or it's like available for pre-order soon or something like that, which is so exciting. Yeah.
You know,
the proceeds do go to his family.
Yeah, all of it. All the proceeds. And you know, while I was looking on the shop, I was looking at the top sellers of stuff too, and a lot of his stuff is still the top selling stuff, or up in at least the top 10, which is great.
That's amazing.
And it's a good company, man. It's nice to just say good things about a good company. Well, obviously, I want to see the marquee match: QT Marshall versus MJF. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I mean, that Sammy Guevara match was so great. I'd love to see that again. But I think I want the Pinnacle to really be the Pinnacle again. So I think that's where we go next for MJF. We hear him, you know, complain about the fact that he got cheated out at All Out and whatever else. Yada yada yada. Move on. We get the Pinnacle coming back together. If there's trios titles, I'd love to see, though, I'd probably want to see Shawn Spears and FTR go after the trios titles. Not MJF and FTR. But maybe Wardlow and him form a tag team. Maybe they go after the tag team titles versus the Lucha Bros. I think that would be a money match for sure. I don't know. I'd love to see him versus Pac. I don't know how they get to that, but I'm looking at this roster and looking for the baby faces on this roster. I wish you could just separate it, like baby faces and heels. Sadly, it doesn't work like that.
Can we get like a filter or something?
Yeah, I know. That would be nice. But Jungle Boy and him obviously had that amazing match, but I feel like it's almost too soon to run that back. Jon Moxley's busy with this whole Forbidden Door thing. You know what? I guarantee they have a plan for him. I just don't know what it is yet. Maybe him versus Dante Martin on a Dynamite. That would be great. I just like to see him on Dynamite wrestling more. I know he kind of can't right now because you don't want him racking up too many wins and whatever else. because then you have him up in the title picture, and obviously I don't necessarily want to see this version of Kenny Omega versus MJF. I definitely want to see that match eventually, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe he goes after the Dark Order. It's just funny. I'm sure they have a plan, but no matter what it's going to be great if MJF's involved for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was just kind of, I pulled up the roster here as well and just kind of looking through it, and yeah, like, and
Matt
it's one of those things
Sydal
where
is a good, easy Dynamite banger.
yeah, like there's a lot of good matches, but I don't see any feuds right now. You know what I mean? So
What about Orange Cassidy?
Yeah, I mean, didn't they do that already?
I was gonna say, I don't know.
I feel like, or was that just Jericho and Cassidy?
I remember they did Jericho and Cassidy with the giant tub.
With the mimosa, mimosa, whatever. But I don't know, and like I said, there's a lot of good matches. But like you said, with AEW, like of course, like obviously the ranking system, like you don't want him to be involved in too many matches because, and then not for nothing too, but they've kind of protected MJF in that way. Like you really don't see him wrestle that much, so when he does, it's even more of a big deal. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's just one of those things where he's just out one week, or maybe like he's off of TV this week, and then he comes out one week, and he's just like kind of puts Jericho to the pass, whatever. He still has the upper hand because he still won the majority of the matches, and he's on to bigger and better things. And then someone comes out and interrupts him, and they just kind of go from there. I think it's going to be one of those things where when we see it, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. But I can't really put my money on like a feud right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll come up with something. But I'm thinking, again, if you went for the Dark Order, you could get MJF versus Stu Grayson. You could get MJF versus Evil Uno. You could get MJF versus Preston Vance. Yeah, again, I'd like to see a Pinnacle versus Dark Order kind of deal. I don't want the Dark Order to break up. I'd rather them just, split up organically and all that stuff. I don't want to see that. I think, they've handled that whole thing unbelievably well. I think we need some babyface turns, honestly. I would love to see, the last big turn I remember is the Inner Circle. I haven't remembered a big turn that we've seen at least from heel to face since then. And even before that, really, I don't know, Eddie Kingston, they could do something there. Frankie Kazarian kind of it seems like he's in no man's land and he's still doing his weird, only necessary when they need him, elite hunter. But yeah, I don't know. I'd really like to see him. If Darius Martin is still injured, obviously, I'd love to see that match versus Dante Martin. If that was on Dark, that's a match I'd go to watch on Dark. Johnny Silver, there's a whole list of things. But the reason I say that face turn is because imagine Ricky Starks turning face. And then you get an MJF Ricky Starks.
Which I want.
What about Brian Cage? Maybe we get an MJF Brian Cage program. Maybe we get to see, maybe MJF pulls something out of Brian Cage we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I could see that. It's just, again, it's one of those things that you're literally going to have to start from almost out of nowhere. Like, it's not going to I don't see anything that he has, like, story-wise without, anything being major where you can kind of play into and kind of resume besides, like you had mentioned, like, Jungle Boy type thing. But yeah, I mean, I think regardless, it's going to be good because MJF is just money, so I'm excited to see it.
I could even see him kind of going towards a, not a managerial role, but, just in a way of supporting FTR in the tag team hunt, and, because obviously now heels going against the Lucha Bros, and I just kind of want to see him, on the microphone against Varsity Blondes. I don't mean like against, because I'm not saying Varsity Blondes are going to say some great stuff back. I just want to see him rip them apart, because I'm sadistic apparently. And again, then you get that Dante Martin, if obviously Darius Martin comes back, maybe the Dark Order is in that. Just supporting FTR in a tag team run, kind of in the microphone, and then you can get 6-man tag team matches, which don't necessarily count towards the rankings, so you could still take a pinfall there. I don't know. A lot of exciting stuff coming up though, and I have faith in whatever they're going to do next. Just get these factions away from each other at this point, unless it's FTR versus Proud and Powerful round 3.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, moving on. Obviously next we had the after 7 years, after 2,000 something, almost 3,000 days, CM Punk returns to the ring versus Darby Allin, and we both called it with Punk getting the victory. Sting came out. They did not give a fist bump. Instead, Sting gave a hug. Just throwing that small detail out there. Long-term storytelling of something I'm sure I'm not picking up on. But yeah, I thought, this wasn't a 5-star match by any means, but I think it was exactly what it needed to be. What I was hoping for more, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be that person to say I was almost hoping for something more. but I didn't need it, if that makes any sense. I was really happy with just what we got, and I was enthralled with the entire match because I was just excited to see CM Punk. The only thing I'll say is, man, Darby Allin's entire body face paint thing got all over CM Punk, and I was like distracted. But
Yeah.
and then that bump against the steel post was incredible. So towards at the end of the match, after Punk gets the GTS and pins Darby Allin, which he sold beautifully, by the way. Like after the match, we have Sting come out, shakes his hand, Darby Allin and CM Punk shaking hands, and then CM Punk just kind of soaking in the love of the crowd. I mean, I hated the tights, Ashley, but other than that, I was all for it.
Yeah, I was hoping they were like pants or something and he was going to take them off like right before the match started. I was just not expecting those at all. And I don't ever remember him wearing like
Never.
long tights like that. Like even back to his indie
I think
days.
he wore
like,
shorts in Ring of Honor
yeah,
for a
he
little
wore
while,
like
right?
basketball type shorts, like shorts. I think like in the beginning days, but man, I don't know. Like it just wasn't for me. Was not for me. I mean, it was fine. I mean, not for nothing. Like it shows that he's in great shape because like there's no hiding that. So there,
Yeah.
I mean, his body looked amazing. So kudos to him for that.
Yeah, I thought he really looked great too.
Yeah, I was actually, I mean, not that I expected him not to be in good shape, but when he took his shirt off, I was like, okay, dude, like, you're
Yeah, he
looking
always
buff.
had a little bit of a
Like,
belly, not in a bad way at all, but just he didn't look
yeah.
like John Cena. I think he looked almost better than he had in the past. Just
Yeah,
like
and he had the V. Like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure he had the V. Like, that's just like, I'm like, wow, okay, dude, like,
put
props, you know?
take the tights off. Put the what are they? I want to call it
The trunks?
the trunks. Put the trunks back on. All
Yeah.
right, you look good, CM Punk. I know they can get self-conscious. Obviously, that's why Goldberg, I think, had mentioned he wore those shorts at the Royal Rumble when he faced Drew McIntyre. He was self-conscious about his legs, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you're freaking Goldberg, and you're self-conscious about your legs. But okay, I'm sure maybe CM Punk is self-conscious about something, and that's why he put on the tights rather than the trunks. But or maybe he just wanted to switch it up. I don't mean to speak for him, but put the trunks back on.
Yeah, no, but he, you know, in the past interviews, he has mentioned, you know, like getting comfortable, like being in his underwear in front of millions of people again. So maybe he just isn't comfortable with it yet, because that is more, I mean, revealing than the long pants are. So,
Yeah,
and you know, not for nothing, if that is the case, and
we'll get used to it.
that's, yeah, and I mean, but like kudos to him for like, you know, like not being comfortable with something and like just, you know, like it just proves that like everyone, like no matter how amazing you look, like and, like Goldberg is it's freaking Goldberg, right? And he's not comfortable, so it's just it just kind of proves a point. But yeah, so I mean the match itself was great, and like you said, like once the match was over, like I think there, like you said, like I wasn't disappointed at all. I was very happy with the match. Like there wasn't like a wow, oh my god, like a huge like moment. I think that I was kind of maybe expecting or something like just like beyond crazy. Besides that spot into the ring post that you mentioned that Darby did, because that was brutal. Like it was just, it's amazing the things that he can do in his timing with those like just stunts and for lack of better terms, because like it just makes me think of like when he was thrown down the stairs, for instance, right? Like the concrete stairs a few months ago. It's just like this guy is insane, legit insane. But I think the match was great, and again, like I don't know about you, maybe it's just me. I have a weird mind or jaded mind, but I was kind of expecting Sting or Punk to turn on each other at the end after everything was all said and done, and they were kind of staring at each other, and Sting was, you know, extending the hand to Punk. Like I kind of expected either Sting to turn on Punk or Punk more so to turn on Sting and Darby, or at least at some point. And did you maybe because like they were kind of like lingering around too for a little bit, so it was just kind of like I was just waiting for something to happen. But part of me is kind of surprised it didn't. But yeah, because it's again like what do you do with Punk next?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I saw a lot of that online, and it didn't even cross my mind. And I think I just thought, like, I was happy with it. I was like, just a nice ending
Yeah.
to a nice, like, and, you know, with all that being said, though, I'll say, whoever Punk faces next, I think the match has got to bring a little bit more than this one did. You know, depending obviously on where it is and all that stuff. I'd love to see Punk wrestle on Dynamite now. They can advertise the crap out of that one. Punk's first match on Dynamite for sure is going to be a big deal. So I'd like to see that, and I hope, you know, I don't know what conditioning he's in and all that stuff. He looked great. Christian Cage wrestles a crap ton on Dynamite, so I'd like to see him wrestle just as much. You know, obviously I don't know if he's going to be in the same trajectory as Christian was, where Christian went to the title picture because he racked up all those wins, or what the deal is, But no, I didn't expect a turn. I'm happy they didn't do it. I'm happy it just was what it was. I think Darby Allin, brushes himself off, and I don't know. It's weird thought too. I'm thinking about 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. Where do they go next? I hope they don't, run something back with Darby Allin again with that. However, the only thing I'd be okay with that is if they had Daniel Garcia versus CM Punk on Rampage or Dynamite. I'd love to see that. I think they should main event a Rampage, really. I think that would be a great thing. Though, has Daniel Garcia wrestled on Dynamite yet? Like an official match capacity? I don't think so, right? Unless
I think it's just been on Rampage, yeah.
So, you get Daniel Garcia and CM Punk's debut on Dynamite.
Yeah. I know, I'm pretty sure he's main evented 2 out of the past 4 Rampage episodes that we've had. He being Daniel Garcia, but I could totally see that, especially with like the attacks, that he did to them last week, or they did to Punk and Darby last week, and just obviously the story and everything. So I could actually really see that, and they obviously have a lot of faith and hope for Garcia with how much they've been spotlighting him. So I could definitely see that.
Yeah, talking about getting the rocket for sure. Yeah, so I just want to see CM Punk wrestle good wrestlers, and I think that's exactly what he wants to do. I have a feeling Punk is going to be more of someone I could see going for the title. I don't even know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, I'm going to be honest, but I could see more of a Bryan Danielson just wanting to wrestle guys on Dark, and I could be wrong about that, but either way, I'm looking forward to whatever's next. Similar to MJF, I mean, if I'm looking at the roster again, if we go open up the roster again, I don't know, I want to see CM Punk in some tag team matches just versus some of these tag team guys, like the guys from FTR. I'd love to see. I know I keep bringing them up a lot. I don't know. Give me CM Punk. He's got Colt Cabana is back there. I don't know where they left off things, but
yeah,
we're all thinking about it.
Isn't that amazing? I'm gonna stop you right there really quick. I'm sorry. Isn't it amazing that no one has really? I mean, not that I've really seen brought much attention to that. And it's of course none of my business, and I'm kind of happy that no one has really, because it is their private business. But with just how mainstream it was, 7 years ago when everything broke, and just like the whole. Well, I don't want to, get all into it again, but it's just kind of weird because, Colt Cabana, he's, Dark Order is a pretty big deal. Like, they're spotlighted at least once a show, so it's just kind of, like, interesting, and it's kind of sucks for Cabana because he was there first, like, not for nothing. Like, it's just kind of, they could be totally fine now, and I hope they are. I'm not hoping for anything negative, of course, but it's just kind of, like, weird that no one's really brought that up.
No, absolutely. I think either one, they're doing it on purpose because there's still some bad blood there.
It could be like a Matt and Edge thing.
Yeah, we could just call it the Sue Fest. You know what I mean? Or they didn't bring it up because neither of them just kind of wants to deal with it's it's in the past and they don't want to bring it into a wrestling ring. I'd be surprised about that, really. But or 3, maybe they are going to go to it next or soon, and we're going to see either a match or we're going to see just a loving embrace between, maybe some backstage thing or in the ring thing with the Dark Order and CM Punk. Maybe Dark Order comes out to make the save for CM Punk, and then we get a nice hug in the ring, and that's all the conclusion we need. So, something, I think. I maybe we get Punk Ricky Starks next.
Yeah.
I just, again, I know, totally. I just went from right to left real quick there, but I'm just like, again, I'm looking at this roster.
Well, it's just hard because of everything that we're going to get into later, right? If it had just ended after Kenny Omega and Christian's match, it'd be one story because you'd have more like ideas because it'd be kind of a little bit more direct. But man, like AEW has such a great problem where they have so many big stars. It's like, where do you go next?
I know there's always going to be a complaint about this person or that person not getting enough time. I'll say if it's at the expense of QT Marshall or anything, I won't complain. But just note, too, Mark Henry here is on, like, the active roster. So they're all that out there. Who wouldn't want to see CM Punk and Mark Henry, throw hands in AEW? I'm being satirical, of course. But, yeah, there's so many. The last question I'll ask you is, who's one person on the roster now that you would like to see CM Punk face before his career in AEW is over? Besides MJF, of course.
If there was just one?
If you want it to happen or whatever, maybe people aren't talking about it that much, but just like someone that you'd be upset if you didn't get to see that match eventually.
Ooh, there's so many, I think, obvious choices, but I think, I call it maybe a dark horse, but maybe I would say him and Malachi Black.
Okay, I just think their
styles, I just think their styles and just the story and like their promo skills, like I just feel like, man, they could get a solid 3 to 6 months out of it before they even get to a match. I mean, probably 3 months, or maybe a month or so. But like, man, like I feel like they would have a banger of a match, and I just think the story itself could be really cool. But yeah, and then of course, I mean, I'm kind of cheating here, but that and Hangman Page, just because the obvious like drinker non-drinker thing, I think that would be fun. But yeah, I think those two come to mind.
No, those are great shouts. The only I had a weird dark horse too, and if you know me, then maybe this isn't as much of a surprise, but give me CM Punk versus Ethan Page.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Phoenix.
Well, yeah, give me CM Punk versus Phoenix. Yeah, screw Ethan Page. I almost cursed there too. But yeah, no, I that one I feel like people are talking about a little bit more. But Ethan Page is underrated on the microphone for me. I think he's a lot better than people. I don't think enough people are talking about Ethan Page, and he's doing that weird stuff with like I didn't mind the team with Scorpio Sky, but I thought after the Darby Allin feud he might break off a little bit more. I like the name, the Men of the Year. But like I want to see more Ethan Page. He's 19-3 overall, so he's not. I'm sure he's got to be in the top 10 in the rankings. He's there, Just with all these heel champions, you don't get to see a lot of these heel up and comers be able to face them now. So I think that's what I was saying about. I'm ready for Kenny Omega to drop the title. I want it to be to Hangman Page, and I think that was probably the what was supposed to happen, at least at All Out. Just a guess, we don't know for sure, but that's what I assume was supposed to happen. I'm ready for Kenny Omega to drop the title, and I'm happy that the Young Bucks did as well. And honestly, I'm ready for somebody to beat Miro as well for that TNT title. I'm a little bit less ready for Miro because I'm still excited and love to see the matches that he has. But particularly the world title, I'm ready for a babyface to hold that championship, even if it's just for a week, and then a heel takes it off.
Yeah.
Need a little change
for Miro. In regards to
in regards to the so we've talked about this before. My dream booking for this whole thing, and I love Hangman Page to death. I just think it would be such a good, more heartbreak to the Hangman Page story if I can take any more. If you were at All Out, obviously, if his partner, again, congratulations to them. Obviously, family takes way more precedence than this sandbox that we're in. But if he had beaten Kenny Omega at All Out, and then MJF was the number one contender, within a couple weeks, MJF versus Hangman Page, or even that next night would be even better for me. MJF wins, beats Hangman Page in some little bit hooker-crooky way, and then Hangman Page has got to do the whole thing all over again.
Poor Hangman.
I know, right? But he's so good at playing the role. It's just, it's too good. Anyways,
what a weird compliment, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's a great chaser,
Yeah.
Speaking of great, no, I don't know. That's the best transition I had. Paul White versus QT Marshall. I think we didn't do an over-under or anything, but this is pretty much in between what we had predicted. You thought it was going to be a quick kind of KO punch, and I thought he was going to work the hit for 20 minutes. So, a good, solid 3-minute match, I guess, if you want to call it that. Not much to talk about this. Paul White defeated QT Marshall. Do you see the main event of Full Gear being Billy Gunn versus Paul White?
Well, I think it's obvious.
Yes, 100%. That's the dream match.
You should put your money on it, and if you haven't, you're losing money as we speak. So shame. No, I mean, I'm still kind of surprised that it went as long as it did.
I am too.
Like I truly expected. First, I still stuck with. I didn't think that the match was actually going to happen because we didn't even see Billy Gunn or like the Gun Club or anything last night. So it was like, what was the point? Like you could have had
the main event of Full Gear. That was the point.
Well, yeah, of course, silly me. Yeah, we just mentioned it, but yeah, like it's just I don't know, like it is what it is. The match itself served its purpose, like in regards to placement on the card, so that's cool. But I don't know, like it just didn't really lead anywhere, and I mean it's over now, so I'm hoping it is over. But again, like are we? I mean seriously, like are we really gonna get like a Billy Gunn Paul White feud out of this? Like I guess that'd be kind of cool, just like in a weird, intriguing way to see, but like it's not something that like I'm dying to see in regards to because your roster is so stacked as it is, right? So now is when if this was like a year ago, maybe because you wouldn't have nearly as the amount of talent that you have now, but now I feel like we're getting to the point where it's like you have to be more selective with like who gets like actual airtime. It's as bad as that is to say it, and of course, like, no disrespect intended because, they're, legends in the business and, of course, deserve time. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We just have to see how it plays out. But I'm just hoping it's over with.
Yeah, I
And
think.
Paul White can stay on commentary and stuff like that. Like he's good there. Like I don't want him like not on TV, but just not maybe wrestling QT Marshall.
Yeah, right, exactly. I think we're gonna get the Gun Club versus Paul White in a handicap match, and I think that's gonna go to a non-finish, which maybe it's just my WWE brain, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe Paul White wins and then they attack him or something. But and then I do think we're gonna get Billy Gunn versus Paul White. I don't know where. I hope we don't have it, but I mean, I don't think AEW is known for dropping things here and there, and if they drop this, I wouldn't be too upset. But I'm almost more irritated if they just drop something than if they, do something stupid. So I just give me a 3-second match, literally 5-second match between Billy Gunn and Paul White, and just have them knock him out. That would be great. My only other question is, where is Anthony Ogogo, and why haven't I not been able to say Ogogo on this podcast for a couple weeks now?
Yeah, Ogogo was just gone. I don't know
Ogogo
where
went
he went. Ogo, he did. Go gone. I don't know. It's like there was just all this hype and everything, and now he legit is just gone. It's just one of those things.
We said that, didn't we? I had you on this show, and we said that Cody Rhodes is going to win, and then what was going to happen for Anthony Ogogo.
And it's that's why I was saying, I'm pretty sure I said it back then. If not, I remember thinking it. Like that's why, like, it's just sad that you wasted the whole American Nightmare, like, going that deep in that route with, like, Dusty and everything. And again, like, who am I to say, like, what he does with his father's, like, legacy and all that stuff. But it's like...
But the patriotism was unnecessary. And the race comments and all that other stuff.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah.
He was wrestling, isn't... Anthony Ogogo, sorry to cut you off again, I don't... Alright, Anthony Ogogo isn't white, correct?
No, I don't think so.
I don't want to say anything or whatever that I don't know, but like, so no one pointed that out the entire time too. It was a little weird.
Yeah,
whatever.
so
it just seemed like he should be the one making the comments,
Yeah, and it was just forced, and it's something that could have been like a cool story with tweaks to it, like for a different opponent, and something that was more drawn out, not for someone
like a mirror.
Literally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and not someone that was just gonna be like a one-off. The match wasn't even really that great. The weigh-in was horrible. And it's just, I don't know, like, you're just left with bad memories. And I don't like that with Cody because, like I've said before, I've always been, like, a big Cody fan. So just one of those things where I wish we can kind of have back.
No, you know what? If I were going to do anything with this, if I'm going to try to salvage this, which I rarely feel like we ever have to do with AEW, I would have Paul White versus the Gun Club, have him beat the Gun Club, then maybe versus Billy Gunn beat down, whatever, and then Billy Gunn... And I'll complain about it for sure. But then Billy Gunn versus Paul White. Short match, Paul White victory. And then Anthony Ogogo versus Paul White. That way we built up Paul White a little bit more as,
and the punch.
And then have, Anthony Ogogo just beat the crap out of Paul White. Nothing like beating up an old veteran wrestler to, like, get some heat on you. And I think that would be great. And just, again, like we said, the shoot punches or whatever, that you could throw the body blows and stuff like that. And Anthony Ogogo is not a small guy at all either, so... Yeah, I would like to see that. It's just kind of hard to be booing a guy who's, like, mostly blind in one eye. It seems kind of funny. Like, I was cheering for him in that Cody match, and I'm an American person.
Yeah, and the promo that he had, I don't think they aired it on Dynamite, or maybe they had aired it later on, like, the countdown to that show. It was really good. Like, it really made sense. He was
like a babyface promo.
Yeah, it was just pretty much calling us out for our stuff. Like, America, like, you have homeless people, like, not going to go into it. If you haven't heard it, I would recommend going back and just checking it out. It's like maybe 2 minutes or something. But it was just like really well done. And like after it was over, it was like, this dude's right.
Yeah.
Like America isn't really all that. Like,
let's move to England.
Yeah. Like he's, it is what it is, but not to get political or whatever. But like for what they were presenting, like if you're looking at the facts, like,
It's hard not to get political when they get political. Yeah. It puts us in an uncomfortable situation. So
right.
Because we can not do that again. But yeah, no, so that's probably what I do with that. Not to spend so much time on all this stuff, but yeah, I mean, there's a place for Paul White, And you know what? Before we move on, I'll say too, when he made that comment about like my big beautiful on Dynamite, I was thinking to myself, I was like, God, Paul White has charisma, and has had it. And we saw, I think, from the stuff I've seen, again, I don't think it was alive yet, but from WCW days, you got to see a little bit more of it. But he always got booked as this like big giant, and we never got to see like this fun side of Paul White that he clearly has. You've heard it on the podcast with Jericho, if you've listened to that and that little promo there. And even on commentary on Dark, I don't know necessarily if it works as well on commentary, but like he's a fun, charismatic guy. He's witty. He's got comedic timing. And we just never got to see that because he always had to be big bad heel Paul White or big baby face Paul White, or Big Show, excuse me, whether it was Monday or Tuesday.
Exactly. I was about to say, yeah, depending on the day. And it's just, it just shows more insight on just like the narrow-mindedness sometimes that WWE booking, or most of the time WWE booking has. And just like the stereotypical side, because like he's a giant, right? So he can only be one of like a few things. But like, man, like if we ever had like just like the real side of him, I mean, just like the real, like a realer version of like Big Show, and just showing like the behind the scenes, like a build up to one of his matches, you know, like with like a Brock Lesnar type, like, you know, just to see like the real backstory and like what he has to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and just like, I don't know, like I just feel like you totally could have got more out of him. But
yeah, there was a lot that was missed. I never would have thought Big Show's career, Paul White's career would have been one where I would have thought, oh, they really missed the boat on that one.
Right?
You know? But they did. There was a lot, I think, untapped. So that's why I kind of feel bad for the guy. I want to be able to see him and all that stuff and wrestle, but, you know, the man moves slower than he ever has still. He's apparently in the best shape of his life, but he's also, you know, not a spring chicken anymore, if he was a spring chicken ever. I don't know if you can call Paul White a spring chicken, so... All right, well, I'll move on and stop talking about Paul White versus QT Marshall, and we'll get to our main event, which was the AEW World Championship match, Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega. Just a quick recap of you know, this was, for the most part, which I thought was, like, really well done, a back and forth, counter, like, these guys are two veterans, and they didn't, you know, it wasn't this big, like, heat-building match or anything, it was just back and forth. My fiance and I were watching this, and she was asking me about the table. She was like, wait, why can they use a table? And I think they need to do a little bit better of a job of clarifying, maybe, but, like, without making us sound stupid all at the same time. So, you know, I don't know how they're going to do that, but that you can't hit someone with something, but if they go through something or hit it themselves or whatever, the steel steps, the table, the announce table, all the other stuff, it's not a DQ. But obviously they got a little leeway here, and I mean the Chris Jericho MJF match got a little leeway as well. So yeah, that they had a great table spot on the outside. I don't know if you saw the bump Christian took when he went through the table, but the leg of the table caught him,
yes.
and every time they showed that back, I was like, oh my god, he could have gotten like impaled there.
Yes.
Poor guy. But, you know, Omega eventually gets the victory with the one-winged angel off the top rope, the avalanche one-winged angel. I was also telling her, because she was asking me, she always asks what all the moves are called. And, and I said, well, you know, babe, any move they do, if they do it off the top rope, just add avalanche, in a couple cases super, but mostly avalanche to it, and then that's the name of the move. So the avalanche, one-winged angel, which I'll quickly touch on and then throw it over to you. I did like that he did that because it's been this small detail and this small thread, I don't know if you've been noticing it too, that Kenny Omega is doubting the one-winged angel, you know, and I think it was almost supposed to be a payoff here, maybe with Hangman Page possibly kicking out. Again, that was just my dream booking, but he's doubting the one-winged angel. He didn't just do it regularly, he had to do it off the top rope in order to get the pinfall, and I thought that was like a nice little detail that they added. So before we get into the after the match, the V triggers were great. I think this was a great professional like a pure professional wrestling fans match. But that was my opinion. Let me throw it over to you.
No, I agree, and I think this one was better than their Rampage match, and I think that says a lot, because that one I really enjoyed that match also. But I think this one was just like a notch better, and I think if we got a third match out of these guys, like it'd be even better, because, like you said, like this was this was like, it almost, and it's kind of weird to say, and I don't know if it'll make sense, but it kind of felt like a WWE match. Like it didn't feel quite like a AEW style match. Like it just felt different. And I think that has a lot to do with Christian, because he kind of like slows down the pace. Like I don't know if you've noticed, like in the matches that he's had in AEW, like the constant that I've noticed is like he kind of takes control of the match in a way where the tempo is different no matter who he's in the ring with. Yeah, you know, like this, they may still hit like their spots, but like it's a different style and different vibe to it. And that's why like I've always been a big fan of Christian, regardless of, you know, like him, like what I thought about his surprise, you know, and everything like that. I just feel like he kind of got like the short end of the stick there. But I really enjoyed this match. Like, and there were some points I was like, oh man, like are they really gonna do it? Like, are they really gonna, you know, pull the trigger? But I'm happy that Kenny retained for now because of course, what's going to happen in the future, hopefully. But I think this is going to be kind of not the end of Christian in AEW, obviously, but maybe unless they go back to having him work involved with like the Jungle Boy and Jungle Express and things like that. But I think since obviously he's the heavyweight champion for Impact, they're going to kind of maybe let him focus in that area and just maybe have him just on Impact solely for a little while. But and again, with how many people they have on their roster and with what happened later on, like it's just kind of at the point where you again have to kind of limit your time. But I mean, not for nothing, like AEW, like sometimes I wish the show kind of would slow down a bit, and maybe I just have a weird brain, but they just cram so much into it. It's like you enjoy every second of it, but it's like, man, like it's almost sometimes like what just happened in a way. Like you have to really go back and think of like the entire show, like, oh yeah, that happened. But the match itself is just, I think, like almost perfect for the quality and what like just what they accomplished itself too, and like, and not for nothing, but before I stop rambling here, it's amazing to think of the difference a year or so can make with in regards to Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, because when AEW started, they were a staple and part of the reason why AEW is even a thing to begin with. So the amount of heat and hatred that they're generating, and especially in crowds like Chicago, because Chicago is obviously like a quote unquote smart city, so they're gonna want to cheer people who they have respect for. But the fact that they're continuously getting booed is, I think, not something that should be overlooked, and I think that's like a testament to them.
No, 100%. I think there were a couple Kenny Omega chants, and I think that was probably, to be expected with the fact that it was Christian Cage wrestling him. You know what I mean? We weren't.
Yeah, and Christian did get booed a little, like, during the introductions. I don't know if you kind of caught that, but
yeah,
I was kind of concerned at the beginning.
And, I said that I think they did the best with what they kind of had here. They were building stuff, obviously, I think, as a TV match, and then it ended up being, the main event of All Out. But I think they pulled a rabbit out of a hat that was pretty good, especially what we're going to talk about next, obviously. And I want to ask where you think Christian Cage goes and where you think Kenny Omega and the Elite and all go, but I want to get to the end of the show first before we talk about that. But, like you said, the match itself, I agree. I think Dynamite, personally, or specifically Dynamite, and Rampage as well, but more so Dynamite, it's too... Tony Khan's got ADHD, without a doubt. And I do too, and I feel like I follow it along to the best of my ability, but they don't let things sit and like simmer for a minute. That I said I knew something was happening with Big Show or Paul White because they left the camera on him for more than 2 seconds, and they don't ever do that. It was weird. And I have to say, I think the pay-per-view, it allowed them to not have to do that, and it really, the entire pay-per-view as a whole benefited. Yeah, it was like a 4-hour show, but it didn't feel so long. I was tired by the end of it, don't get me wrong, but then I got an adrenaline boost through the roof, obviously. And yeah, I think Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega, I challenged my fiance and I said, let's not pick up our phone the entire match and just watch it for what it is, because it was going to be slower. I knew it was going to be a slower match in comparison to some of the other stuff we saw on the show. And I think that was fine, and it was perfect, and it was just... Yeah. AEW is a buffet of all kinds of professional wrestling, and like you said, I don't know if I'd compare it to a WWE match necessarily, but it was definitely different from your typical Dynamite matches, and that just kind of shows how versatile Kenny Omega is. And then, again, I think what Christian Cage is teaching all these younger guys is, like, build the match to a crescendo at the end. Very New Japan-y style, too, where it's like, it starts off slower in the beginning, and yeah, it might feel slow, and you're not getting all these pops and whatever. It's not about that. It's about the big crescendo at the end. Because as we saw from this pay-per-view, the most important thing is the last thing that we see. So, yeah, I thought they did the best they could with this whole thing, and I was not disappointed at all. I thought this was a great match. After the match, however, we had the Elite beating down Christian Cage after the one-winged angel, and I love, someone on commentary just said, like, he just took a one-winged angel off the top rope, like, you cowards. And I was like, yeah, they really, again, like you said, the heel heat. Everybody, for the most part on the pay-per-view, cheered who AEW probably wanted them cheering, and booed who AEW probably wanted them booing. And it's that easy. You just gotta book people like actual heels and faces, and you can tell the value system in this company is not screwed up, because they know what makes a good guy and what makes a bad guy. And the bad guys can be entertaining too, right? Talked about MJF a crap ton on this show. So, After the match, like I said, Omega's cutting a promo talking about how he's bidding everybody adieu and saying nobody could possibly beat him. They're not in the company or they're already dead. And then I thought I had that moment and I was like, oh my gosh, I was
Here
right,
we
right?
go.
Adam Cole comes out, thunderous ovation, right? It was so good to hear him do the Bay Bay thing with a full crowd again, because obviously they've been in the very, very dreary Capitol Wrestling Center. And it was so good to hear that. And then super kick to Jungle Boy, joins the Elite, starts to cut a story about story time, or cut a promo about story time, and says that the Elite is the best faction in all of professional wrestling. Nobody can stop them. Start beating down again Jurassic Express and everybody. And then who should come out but Bryan Danielson? Joins Cage and Jurassic Express, fend off all of the Elites. And we go off the air with hugs all around, and Bryan Danielson just getting an unbelievable ovation from the crowd. The only thing I'll say is I noticed he didn't do the yes thing. The crowd did it, but he didn't. And just a small note. But let me throw it over to you two. Just what was your reaction to all this before we obviously get into what could be next?
Really quick with the yes thing, this is kind of twofold, but I don't, because I'm going to mention it later on in regards to something else, but I don't think he can probably do the yes thing. I think, like, as crazy as that may sound, like,
Can you
I don't
trademark
think,
the word yes?
well, and like the mannerisms and things like that, like, I don't know if, I could be off here, but
I'll look it
for
up.
instance, like, I don't think, because, like, for instance, like, they had, like, those yes t-shirts, like, yes, 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 like that maroon colored one, back when, like, right around the time, like, he was with, Kane. So I don't, of course, like, I don't know, like, the ins and outs to all that, but I think that may be why. So I don't know, like, I think, because that was the first thing, well, of course not the first thing, but that was, like, something that stood out to me also. Like, he kind of, instead of doing the finger pointing and the yes, like, he just did, like, his arms to the side and kind of just, went down the ramp, which is still cool, but, like, and obviously, like, it's cool to let the fans do it, but I think it's one of those things where he may not be able to play into it, which I hope I'm wrong and way off, but, and it was that and the whole Adam Cole Bay Bay thing, like, I, for whatever reason, didn't think that he would be able to use the Bay Bay part after leaving WWE. Like, I was concerned that was going to be tied up in whatever kind of legalities that they have when they sign those contracts. Because it's kind of interesting to me how, like, some of them, like a CM Punk and like an Adam Cole Bay Bay and things like that. I mean, I know it's not his name, but like it's a separate entity that's related to his character. So it's interesting to see who can take what with them, and I would just love, I mean, not that it's any of my business, but it's just, like, interesting to know, like, how some of that stuff works out.
Yeah,
But
so I don't want to cut you off. I just want to mention
no.
what I found is apparently Daniel Bryan, obviously the name is trademarked, but
Right.
the yes movement is probably trademarked as well, but I don't think you can trademark the yes chant. Apparently, there was some fighter named Diego Sanchez in the UFC or MMA who had that. And he kind of got it off that. So I don't think you can't. I mean, I don't know if he can do it, but you definitely can't trademark the chant yes. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe maybe he just wants to. Again, you know how Chris Jericho is, and I don't think Daniel Bryan is anything in comparison with Chris Jericho. It's real. Those two are on two totally opposite sides of every spectrum ever. But you know how Chris Jericho is with, he doesn't want the Y2J chants and all that other stuff. Maybe Daniel Bryan's just ready to move on from the yes stuff, which it'll
Yeah.
never die. By the way, it'll be like the what chants forever. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did just want to mention
No.
that.
No. You're totally good. But yeah, so that kind of, like, with in regards to, like, the Adam Cole and Bay Bay thing, like, I know that's probably completely different, but yeah, like, stuff like that just always, like, intrigued me. But I mean, where do you even begin with all this? And Adam Cole, first of all, like, I guess first of all, like, I love both of their new entrance themes. Like, I think both of them are so well done, especially Brian's. Like, I love the beginning, how it ties into, like, his, his Flight of the Valkyrie one from WWE, but then just breaks into, like, this completely different, like, it just, like,
The remix.
yeah, I just love it. Like, it's just good for him. But yeah, and then just, I love that Adam Cole is a heel and he's with the Elite, and how that story's gonna play out, and, like, they're addressing the whole Adam Cole was dead thing, which, to be honest, like, I don't really know too much about, because I really, it was kind of like, I didn't really follow all of that at that time. at least like that closely. But yeah, like I'm just so intrigued because you kind of like with the rate of things, like you kind of expected them to come in and just, you come in, you get a massive pop, and you kind of do your thing. But I think the heel role is perfect for him, and I just love what they're going to do going forward. Because, of course, with what happened right after that with Bryan Danielson coming in, it's just a perfect balance, right? And I think that would be a fun little faction against faction, too, like Daniel or Bryan Danielson and Jurassic Express versus, Adam Cole and the Elite and all those guys. So it's kind of weird because, like, in the same token, though, too, it's like Adam Cole is just coming in and he's obviously a massive star, but in that group, Kenny is your champion. So does Bryan focus solely on Adam Cole, or does he go more towards Kenny? I don't know if it should be obvious that he would be starting off with Kenny. But yeah, like I think there's a lot of different routes that they can go with this, and I think not for nothing, like they could focus on more of a faction versus faction route and less on a title feud and kind of drag this out until Hangman is ready to come back so you can finally get your payoff with Kenny versus Hangman without having to make an excuse and have like another match, like a title match in the meantime, because Kenny will obviously be involved with all of this now. So I think it kind of works out in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to mention as well, Kenny Omega, as of All Out, obviously, that was 277 days. So now today is his 278th day, beating Jon Moxley, and now is the longest reigning AEW World Champion. So just the fact that, there has not been a reign under 180 days for that title is crazy. And only 3 guys have held it in the 3-something years that they've been on television. Yeah. So bear with me, and I'm going to tell you my possible dream booking as I talk this out and interject anytime. But this is what I think I would go with it, and I don't know what they're going to do, but I'd like to see somehow we get to the match with Christian Cage, Christian Cage, Bryan Danielson, Jurassic Express versus Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Adam Cole. That way we don't have to deal with the Good Brothers. Or we get a nice match with, Jurassic Express versus the Good Brothers, or Christian Cage and Bryan Danielson versus the Good Brothers or something. I don't really need to see that match. But, again, power to Luke Gallows especially. Like, you get your money and not ever have to take a bump. I'm all for it. But yeah, I want to see that 4-on-4 match. I don't know if we see it in a blood and guts type environment. I don't know if we see it in a 4-man elimination tag environment, which I assume is more up Bryan Danielson's route. So I'd like to see that. That way you get your Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, fix or a little bit of a taste without actually getting the match. I don't think Bryan Danielson is a guy who wants to go in and win titles. Maybe the TV title, the TNT title, obviously. But I don't know about the world title. I think he just wants to wrestle. And I could be totally wrong about that. But, so I want to see that 4-on-4 match. I don't think they need to wait all the way till Full Gear. I think they can do it beforehand. And then, think about all the matches you get in between that. You can get Bryan Danielson versus Matt Jackson, Christian Cage versus Matt Jackson, Jungle Boy versus Matt Jackson, right? Luchasaurus versus Matt Jackson. And then repeat the cycle with Nick Jackson, with just Kenny Omega, with Adam Cole, obviously. And then after that, here's my only thing is I thought Christian Cage was going to turn heel on Jurassic Express. I don't know how they do that, when they do
So
that.
did I.
Yeah, without him aligning with the Elite, if that makes any sense. I don't know where that ever happens. And then somewhere down the line too, maybe we get a feud between Kenny Omega and Adam Cole after Kenny Omega loses the title that occupies both of them for a little while as a post-title feud for Kenny Omega. And then maybe we see I want to see Adam Cole hold the AEW World Heavyweight Championship at some point. And I want to be able to cheer Adam Cole, like you said. I feel like he's been forced down our throats so many times as a heel, and I really feel like we only got a couple months ever just to cheer the guy as a face. So I don't know. That's my dream booking for the whole situation. I think that gets you in as many matches as Daniel Bryan can have with all these guys. I want to see the Young Bucks and singles competition matches again here and there. They put on incredible matches, almost just as good as their tag team matches in singles competition. So that's where I'm going. On one of those, they have like the Winterfest or whatever on one of those TV specials. That's where I think we get some kind of fun 4-on-4 match. I don't know what the stipulation would be or how they do it, but it can't just be a regular 4-on-4 tag.
Yeah, I don't know. And just to kind of confirm, like throughout that time, you don't think Kenny defends the title at any point, right? It's just more so on like the group versus group, faction versus faction.
I think Kenny does an amazing job at this whole spider webbing thing. So I think
Hmm.
he could almost like you can do two things at once. You know, it's such a funny WWE trope that like you can only be involved. You can literally, if you're in a feud with someone, you only talk to somebody like one person maybe is a face or a heel that you know, and whoever you're in a feud with backstage. You can't
No one
interact
else
with
knows
any.
anyone.
Yes, they don't interact whatsoever. Well, when I look at the rankings, you've got right now at least, and again this was pre All Out, but Christian Cage number one, obviously. Orange Cassidy number two. Will Hobbs number three, which weird. I didn't expect that one. And then Darby Allin and Jungle Boy. Maybe you do. Again, I don't know any of these guys. I don't think I want to see Darby Allin yet versus Kenny Omega, but maybe they run that match. And then you do that storyline, like I mentioned before, where Darby Allin eventually is able to come back and win a title. I think Darby Allin is a great challenger for Kenny Omega in the midst of all this, and then a main event match down the line. Doesn't make a lot of sense to have Powerhouse Hobbs challenge him, so I don't know who else is in the, like who's number 6 in the rankings, but maybe you bring some guys up and just have a TV challenger for Kenny Omega in the meanwhile. Like, he can do more than one thing at once, you know? What do you think? Who would you like to see him face? Maybe that's not a big deal, but that's also not, doesn't feel like we're wasting a match away, but at the same time doesn't feel like this should be a bigger match than it is. Maybe they run back Dante Martin. Not as maybe a title match, but just a regular match too, just to have going on throughout all of this. Frankie Kazarian never got a
Yeah.
title shot.
Yeah, and like you I think briefly mentioned that earlier. What are they doing with Frankie? Like what's going on with Frankie? Like he just randomly pops up. Like I know he's the elite hunter, but he just like randomly pops up.
And he
Like the poor
lost
guy.
to Luke
Like
Gallows on Rampage.
yeah.
All the momentum is gone.
Yeah, so it's like poor guy, you know. But you know, I guess it's just one of those things. But that's what I was about to pull up my calendar here because I mean, I truly think that they're trying to hold out for Hangman to come back and win the title from Omega. I truly think that that's what their plan is. So I think that's why I mentioned earlier. I think especially having like Brian and Adam Cole debut last night with the whole faction versus faction thing, and I love the inclusion of Christian Cage in that too. I don't know how I would have forgotten about that, but I think you can buy time because it's what we're already a week into September, going into the second week. So between now and Full Gear is what on November. I think there is like tentative for like November 13th.
Yeah, 15th,
I
10th, I forget. It was one of those.
Yeah, like around that second week in November. I think you can. It's maybe a long shot, and of course, like maybe you do have like one TV like match in between there, like just like a solo Kenny match. But I think they can. I think they've proved it with Jericho and MJF that they could probably drag this out to where, like you mentioned, that Kenny, the focus isn't really on the title right now. It's just on the faction and the story, like 'cause, like Adam mentioned, like story time, you know. So I think they're really gonna drag that out. Wait till Hangman comes back, have Hangman get his moment, and then go from there. Because I think it's just, I think once that title comes off of Kenny and goes on to Hangman, it's just the gates are open.
Yeah, maybe we get that 4-4 in that September show at Grand Slam. You know, I was
Yeah.
thinking last night, I was saying, AEW's got to have something big planned for these next few shows coming out.
Yeah.
Specifically that, right? And I'm not just saying that because I'm going. Obviously, all jokes aside with all of that. But, like, realistically, because it's going to be their biggest live audience ever, right? It's a huge deal that they're going to be at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Again, my parents or my mom was just there watching the U.S. Open, and I've been there once before. It's a huge stadium with a tennis court, let alone just a ring, right? They're going to want to do something big. Imagine, again, you've got the Elite versus these four guys. I don't know what you want to call them. Jurassic Express plus the two technical wrestlers. Technical Jurassic Express is what I guess we would call it. Jurassic Technical You get the point.
TJE.
Something there, yeah, exactly. But we have that go down or whatever at that show. That's a big marquee match. You've got Daniel Bryan and you've got a lot of guys kind of included in that. It's similar to what they did with the Jon Moxley thing, where when he lost the title, he wasn't totally out of the title picture. They obviously still had a rematch here and there, but he still kind of hung around, and they had that match against the Young Bucks with Eddie Kingston. Like, they pulled that one out of nowhere, obviously, because I didn't feel like they were racking up wins, and then all of a sudden they were number one in the rankings. So
Yeah.
maybe they do something along those lines of where Christian Cage still kind of stays in the picture, so it doesn't feel like he just falls from grace, if that makes any sense. But then he he's not in the title picture and has a very organic transition out of it, moving on to some feud with Jurassic Express.
Yeah, no, I like that.
So, before we close down here, a couple things I want to ask you. Same thing I asked you about CM Punk, I want for Daniel Bryan and Adam Cole. One guy you want to see, make sure he faces before he's done in AEW.
Oh, for each of them?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Besides each other, by the way, right?
Yeah, right, yeah. I'm gonna cheat and pull up their roster again. But I think, I mean, with Adam Cole, it's harder because I think with Adam Cole, it's part of me, like, I'm kind of concerned in the way that, well, I guess really quick before I answer, do you think that they're gonna, like, he's going to be, like, a main event and a champion sooner rather than later? And do you think he ends up turning on the Elite, or do you have any, like, early predictions for how that plays out? Because that's kind of what I'm torn on right now. Because I think he should be a main eventer, but I don't know how they're going to view him going forward. And not that I don't have faith in them, but it's just, like, I don't really know what to expect yet.
Yeah, my hope is, I mean, this is a little bit different of an analogy, but the Young Bucks are still obviously a huge deal, right? And they're in the Elite still. So they managed to pull that off. I'd like to see him still be a huge deal, even being aligned with the Elite. Maybe he goes after the TNT title against Miro, or maybe when Miro loses it, he goes after whoever's next there. Again, with the ranking system, if he racks up enough wins, and let's say Eddie Kingston, they run that back, just for argument's sake, let's say they run that back and Eddie Kingston beats Miro, then we have Adam Cole versus Eddie Kingston, and in the meanwhile, Adam Cole can rack up wins, and be up there in the rankings so he could be qualified, quote-unquote, for that match. And maybe, again, though, the Young Bucks lost the titles, otherwise I'd say they'd hold all the gold, but I really don't want the gold being in the Elite anymore. I think, at least I hope, Ashley, because I explained this last time before, I hate the babyface turn, where the heels turn on the babyface, and then we're supposed to somehow cheer for him. I hope Adam Cole turns on the Elite, or does something similar to Hangman Page, where he's like, I'm sick of your crap. But I don't think it happens until Kenny Omega loses the title, and a little while after that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think as far as my predictions, or not my predictions, but like my, I guess, dream matches for them, I really, besides the obvious, I think with Bryan, of course, like being Omega, I really want to see Bryan and Paige. I don't know how we would get there. I don't know what the story would look like. And like, maybe that's cheating because I don't know why, like, I didn't even realize, gosh, that how big of a Paige fan that I am, but like, just thinking of, like, matches, like, he's just, like, there's just something about him, like, he can just, like,
he's so lovable.
Yeah, like, it's just so easy to get behind, and it's, like, I'm not even really into, like, cowboy, you know what, but, like, man, like, he makes you believe, like, you're like, yeah, man, like, you're cheering right along with him, and you don't care, like, it's just one of those cool things, so, and I think, like, with Adam Cole, it may be weird, but, like, I'd love to see, like, an Adam Cole with, like, a Darby Allin, just to see, like, how their styles kind of, like, contrast in a way, and just kind of see, like, how, like, what that match would look like. But, I mean, because, like, of course, like, I'm just taking a Mega out of both of them, because I feel like that's kind of, just, like, the go-to. But, like, either that, or maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember, like, a Pac versus Adam Cole.
No, I don't think they ever crossed paths.
I don't think they did either. So, because I think Pac, or when he was like in WWE, he was like when he was in Neville, I think he was just in the 205 section. So at that point, but yeah, so I think something like that, or maybe like just like maybe anyone, just like Adam Cole with like a Sammy Guevara or Ricky Starks, like just anyone. I think that's just what's so great about all these like Punk, Bryan, and Adam Cole coming in. Like there's just like no bad scenarios coming forward.
No, 100%. And I would think for match quality wise, I was going to be most excited for Bryan because, there's an argument to be made that he's the greatest wrestler in the world. Absolutely, like pure wrestler in the world, their technical wrestler in the world. But I love the way Adam Cole performs in the ring and outside of the ring too. So, I'm going to steal your pick for Daniel Bryan, but I'm going to say I want to see Hangman Adam Page versus Adam Cole at one point. I don't know how they get to it, when that happens, where it happens, but I want to see that. Preferably for the title even at some point. And then the only other person I'd say for Adam Cole that I really want to see, I don't want to cheat and give to, but the only person I'd say for Adam Cole, again, there's a whole crap ton. Orange Cassidy, MJF, right? Yeah. All these people, like, Kenny Omega is the obvious one, absolutely. CM Punk is always going to be there. And But I think let me go over to Bryan Danielson. I want to see Bryan Danielson versus Jungle Boy, and I feel like that's an obvious one too. You know
Oh
what? I
yeah.
want to see Adam Cole versus Luchasaurus. I think that would be amazing. For some reason, I just think that would be awesome. I think Adam Cole is so good at emoting in the ring
I was
as
about
like
to say
a
his facial expressions just reacting to Luchasaurus alone.
yes, as like a chicken,
Like,
you know what, heel. I think
yeah.
that would be a great match. Obviously, Adam Cole would go over, but don't sleep on Luchasaurus, man. And I said, yeah, Daniel Bryan and Jungle Boy, absolutely, and Daniel Bryan and Hangman Page, not Hangman Page, excuse me, Daniel Bryan, well, him too, and Kenny Omega is an obvious one, but there, and now I can't forget. There was one guy I was thinking about for Daniel Bryan, who I was thinking of like technical dream wise, but Pac and Daniel Bryan's a good one. Oh, Ricky Starks and Daniel Bryan, I think I would love,
Oh
and then
yeah.
most of all, Ray Phoenix versus Daniel Bryan.
Yes,
Imagine the
absolutely.
crap that Daniel Bryan could counter from Ray Phoenix. Just
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes. Just take my money.
yeah, exactly. I'm just so excited. Well, okay, before I let you go, Ashley, last thing I'm going to ask you. We got 3 matches as of now, at least, announced for Dynamite this week, and then 1 match announced for Rampage. I'm going to ask you who you think, what your predictions for these are. Well, excuse me, 2 matches announced for Dynamite, 1 appearance. John Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki. We talked about it a little bit. I'll tell you first, I think John Moxley's going over in his hometown because that's how AEW works. But
Yeah,
what do you think?
same. Same.
I'm excited for it, though. I think they're going to kick the crap out of each
Oh,
other.
hell yeah.
There's going to be blood, absolutely. And yeah, these guys, I think John Moxley is in his dreamland right now. Malachi Black versus Dustin Rhodes.
Oh, Malachi for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? I love Dustin Rhodes, and I don't want to see him get his head kicked off as much as I did Arn Anderson's son, or Brock Anderson, but I do kind of still want to see him get his head kicked off. There's something so satisfying about that black mass.
Yeah, and really, really quick, after Malachi, I mean, assuming he does, win against Dustin, is this Cody coming back? Because I feel like, isn't it kind of soon? Like, but who else would he have to go through? Malachi, that is.
That's a good question. I don't know where they go from there. I have to say I love the Lee Johnson match. I really thought they gave Lee Johnson just enough, but also made him look very intimidated. I don't know. Maybe he moves on. I told you, I think he should do some kind of legend killer gimmick. You
Yeah.
know? So maybe
No, for
he's
sure.
next for Punk. And, I know you mentioned that you'd like to see that match, so who knows? And then I'd like to see that versus Daniel Bryan, too. Oh, my God. Give me Malachi Black versus Bryan Danielson.
Please, yes.
So I don't think we ever got that match. Ridiculous, crazy. And the Ruby Soho appearance, obviously, I think we're both excited for. I don't think she eventually goes over Britt Baker. I think Britt Baker obviously keeps the title, but I'm excited to hear how she's on the mic when she's unrestricted.
Yeah, no, I am too, and it's interesting. You don't think that she's gonna go over Britt? Well, that's a whole nother subject, but I don't know. I was thinking as she was debuting, like, man, like, could she be the one that really beats Britt? And of course, it's almost insulting for me to say because you know how I feel about Britt, but I don't know. I'm kind of concerned. I don't think it happens soon. I think it may happen within like the next month or so, and I don't know, like, if I had to guess now, I probably would agree with you. But it's like, do you really want Ruby to lose so quickly? I don't know.
I think it can be one of those matches again where she doesn't lose anything in a loss realistically,
Yeah.
I think you were going to ask, correct me if I'm wrong, were you going to ask who do you think ends up beating Britt Baker eventually?
Oh, yeah.
I have a fear it's going to be Thunder Rosa. And the only reason I have a fear of that is because I'm not necessarily as much on the Thunder Rosa train with everybody else. I think she's great, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But she's just not, she wouldn't have been my pick. Subjectively. Yeah, objectively, it makes a crap ton of sense. Then you have them 1-1 and then they get the big blow-off match again, Who would I like to see? Serena Deeb. I'd like to see Serena Deeb. Maybe Britt Baker finally turns face and we get heel Serena Deeb. I just want to see Serena Deeb hold that title. I think Serena Deeb is the greatest women's wrestler in the world right now. Maybe between her and Charlotte Flair, and if not, top 5 greatest wrestlers. Period. And then I'd like to see Ty Conti eventually be able to kind of get up in the ranks. I don't think it's going to be her, obviously. Maybe it's Jamie Hayter. Maybe it's Jade Cargill. We don't know. You know what I mean? There's so many opportunities. They just got to tell these stories and build these women up. But yeah, Serena Deeb is a big shout for me just because, again, she could have a match with any of the women, any of the men, any of the supply closet stuff they have back there and have an incredible match with them. So, Yeah,
I
but yeah,
agree.
I don't think it's gonna be Ruby Soho. Maybe again, like I said, maybe they tell that story and Ruby Soho comes back 2 years later and whatever ends up, avenging her loss. But yeah, I think it's gonna be Thunder Rosa who ends up taking the title off her. So, who's number one in the rankings with the women as of now? I think, if I'm correct, from at least what happened with, yeah, because Chris Statlander lost. Yeah, she'd be 26-2 in singles competition. So.
Yeah.
All right, last thing, Rampage. Obviously, the only match I remember they announced was going to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Pac versus Andrade.
Oh, Andrade, yes, yes. That one's tough. I don't, especially now with Lucha Bros winning the tag titles, I don't. And I guess, that's kind of an interesting point before we close here. Do you think that they stay babyface, or do you see like a heel turn in their future and joining up with Andrade, or what do you think happens with that? Because I think that kind of plays into the finish here too, because that was kind of the whole point.
Yeah, they had some stipulation, but they never outright said it. They just handed him a big stack of papers that I don't know how it could be that big. It made no sense, but whatever. They handed them a big stack of papers, and I assume if they didn't mention it outright though, unless I'm missing something, but if Andrade won, he'd basically get possession of the Lucha Bros. But I don't think that makes any sense. And since when was I missing something? Did the Lucha Bros work for Pac? I thought it was just the trios. Jets Triangles.
No, no, it wasn't. Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily like if whoever wins, like they side with them type thing. I think it was more for just like it was like bragging rights, but it was like kind of like I don't know. It was like a weird like kind of like I don't know how to say it without cursing or anything like that or saying words I shouldn't, but it's kind of like just like an ego type thing, like like I'm better than you and like I could be their
BD
leader type
competition,
thing.
yeah.
Exact. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I think that's kind of what it was, because my thought going into it was Lucha Bros are going to cost Pac and then side with Andrade, but now that they're champions, I don't really know. Like I think that I don't know what to make of it.
No, I agree. And before they won the titles, I thought that might be where they were going to. Honestly, for me, I hope that's not where they go, because Andrade just hasn't been it, and Chavo Guerrero sure as hell ain't it. So I think, God, yeah, this is a tough one to call. You know what? Because if Andrade wins, then you'd think, well, the Lucha Bros would just go, would they go and join him? But why does that? Why do they? They don't have to do that. Why would they do that? You want to get Andrade to win because apparently they want to put a lot of stock behind him. But also, Pac is no slouch. Pac's the one who beat Kenny Omega, right? And Pac is like a real dark horse in the midst of all of this. Is just, first of all, one of the most incredible wrestlers in the world. But like,
his look is just amazing.
Yeah,
I love
and
his
he's
look.
credible is the word I guess I'm looking for. Is a underratedly credible wrestler on that roster. So, I mean, they could have Pac go against freaking Miro, you know what I mean, for the title, and then you get the Death Triangle holding all three titles like that. I'd love to see that. So you know what? I'm going to say Pac goes over. I don't think so. It doesn't make sense with the All Andrade thing, but when you were talking to me about the Lucha Bros, I feel like it makes sense. I'm going to say Pac goes over.
Okay.
What do you think? Though Andrade getting a win over Pac would be a big deal, I guess. But you know what? Pac goes over. I'm sticking with it. Until Thursday, I'll see you on the Dynamite Review show. But Pac goes over.
Yeah, I really want to say Pac goes over because obviously I'm a big fan of Pac, but I think Andrade wins here. I think Andrade needs this win more than Pac does too, because they haven't really Andrade's only had one match since he's debuted, which is kind of bizarre. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of odd to me.
And it wasn't a good match. It was a 3-star at most match, not even.
It just wasn't. I don't know. It just wasn't all that. So, just kind of weird. So I think, I think part of this match will really say too with how. And again, maybe I'm jaded because of WWE, but like part of me wonders if like Andrade were to lose, for instance, if this is like a sign. And I'm again not saying that because I want it to be, but like he, he was a pretty big deal coming in, like not major, but like he's a big deal. Like he looks the part. Like you would think
they botched the debut.
Yeah, it's just kind of, I don't want to say a miss yet, but we're just kind of like waiting to see how it plays out. So that's why part of me feels like they would just kind of give him this win and just kind of maybe move on now and maybe not even address like Lucha Bros like either siding with Andrade or whatever. Just have Andrade do what he's going to do with Chavo and just kind of go from there. But I don't know, or they could still have them pair off, still turn Lucha Bros heel, which I think may be a mistake, but
yeah,
maybe that would be
that's
good.
The wrong way to go. The Lucha Bros are so. You heard the ovation, obviously they got it all out. So
Maybe
over.
if the idea though is if you turn them heel now, it gives you time for your New York show, and then you put Pride and Powerful over, or you just have like more substance of a match, so it's at least babyface and heel. I don't know. I
No,
don't
that's a
know,
good
but
point. That's a good way to tell a story. The story too. I didn't think of that. Yeah, I mean, if you turn him heel, I will probably still cheer him. The only thing they could do is like attack Britt Baker, and then I'd
yeah,
like turn on him.
and when I say heel, I mean I'm not
No, I
saying they're
know
going
what
to
you
get
mean.
booed out
Penta
of the
Place
building.
is such a great heel.
Yeah, oh, and that's my point. Yeah, and I mean, they're Marvez right there. Like it's just, I mean, not Marvez, Abrahante's right there. So it's just like, I could see it, you know. So that's why I'm gonna stick with Andrade. I'm not really, Andrade is gonna be my pick, even though I would much prefer Pac to go over. But I'm gonna stick with Andrade, and then maybe eventually it leads to them joining up. But my money's done on that. But I'm gonna stick with Andrade right now.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. And again, this isn't any slight on Andrade, but maybe, they've been signing all these great WWE talents. Again, they're not WWE wrestlers, by the way. They're just independent contractors who worked in WWE. But
Hmm.
guys who worked in WWE who we thought were being weighed down, and Andrade more than anyone else really just weighed down on the main roster, especially.
Yeah.
Such a talented guy, we thought, in like 2005 and stuff like that. Maybe some of the guys, the styles and whatever else just doesn't translate. We really don't know because we've only seen one match in AEW, but I heard that even that match in AAA against Kenny Omega wasn't this amazing. Right? If it was this amazing match, we would have been talking about it. So,
True.
yeah, maybe Andrade just ain't it, and I hate to say that, and I hope he is, and he seems like a really nice guy, and I hope maybe he has a Miro story where he just flounders for a little bit and then turns out to be awesome, who knows.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, Ashley, as always, thank you for letting me hold you hostage for like over 2 hours once again. But what a pay-per-view. The greatest AEW
Yes.
pay-per-view of all time. Recency bias aside, we don't give a crap here on the WWE podcast. When are we going to turn the WWE podcast into the unofficial AEW podcast, do you think?
Right. I
We
mean,
should
I
talk to
feel the
Matt about that.
tide
I
is
mean,
turning.
I
The
got
tide is
Matt
turning.
watching All Out last night, so.
Yeah, so it's imminent.
But as always, you want to tell them where they could follow you on the Twitter?
Oh yes, you can follow me at ASHMANNS.
And you can follow me at Mimi Burris as well. Thank you, as always, Ashley. Loved having you on. It makes these shows so much easier to get through, so much more fun to talk about, rather than me just talking to a microphone for an hour and a half. So, thank you,
No,
as
it's a
always.
blast.
And I'll
Thank
have to
you.
have you on soon, definitely for that New York show, because I'm going to need some help as to
For
what went down
sure.
on TV.
For sure. I look forward to it. Yes, and I can't wait to hear what you, like just your in-person experience because this is gonna be your first one. I think I'm more excited than you are in a way.
I love that for me. That's so sweet. Yeah, I have a bunch of
Yes.
questions to ask you about it, sure. And we'll get into it obviously another time. But as always, we're on Patreon too, guys, before I forget to mention $1 a month, and on iTunes for I think $2.99 a month. All these shows ad free. I mean, you get 2 hours of Ashley Mann ad free. Why wouldn't I'd pay more than $1 a month for that? I don't know about you, but so with all that being said, thank you as always, guys, and Ashley, thank you.
As always, thank you, Mimi. Take care.
You too.